Welcome to the Super Gringo podcast, where we discuss pretty much anything from Brazil to the mental illness of the loony left. I'm the Super Gringo, Sean Armstrong, and feel free to leave comments in the live chat, or you can call in on Skype. My ID number is in the description. Today we'll be talking about, of course, the war in Israel and how close we really are to World War III and the lie of systemic racism in America. Let's get started. So if you noticed, I changed the music to the intro because I got tired of getting hit with copyright, which I don't know how you get caught with copyright. They're my lyrics, but got tired of getting hit with copyright. This is copyright-free music. What's up, Sandriana? Amor? Just a reminder, you can call into the show using Skype. I put the Skype ID in the description. Of course, you can always leave comments in the live chat. Now, last week I didn't do a Brazil video. I should do that every week because I like sharing about Brazil. It's a beautiful country to visit. I've been living here for 3 years. It's had its ups and downs, mainly because of the language, but overall it's been a great experience. I would highly recommend it for vacation, especially during the summer, our summer, your winter, and you feel like going to the beach. You'll love the exchange rate. Se algum dos meus amigos ou familiares brasileiros estiver aqui, seja bem-vindo e desculpe o idioma.
It's a huge country spanning 4 time zones. It is the birthplace of samba, and it has more species of monkeys than any other country in the world. These are just 3 things that you will learn about Brazil. Hello everyone, welcome to the GeoFocus channel. Today's topic is Brazil. Brazil is a country known for its infectious culture and its amazing landscapes, but it is also a country that is growing in global importance. It is the largest country in South America, and by far it has the largest and fastest growing economy in the region, with a growth rate of 5% per year. Brazil is the 5th largest country in the world with a total land area of 8,515,766 square kilometers. That makes it slightly larger than Australia and slightly smaller than the USA. It is also the world's 5th most populous country with 205,338,000 people. It is the world's longest country from north to south with a total length of 4,395 kilometers, so it shares land borders with 10 countries in South America. To the east, Brazil's coastline is 7,491 kilometers long, making it the longest continuous coastline in the world. The country is also pretty big from east to west, big enough to span 4 time zones.
Opa!
Brazil's climate is largely tropical, but because the country is so large and because it has a variety of elevations, the climate differs from one region to another. The north of the country is located on the equator and has a tropical climate with warm temperatures that vary little throughout the year and rainfall year-round.
Chamari meu papai.
So it has slightly lower temperatures, especially at night. And it is further from the equator, so it has more seasonal variation and a definite dry season. Closer to the south of the country, around and below the Tropic of Capricorn, the seasonal differences are more extreme, with hotter summer temperatures and colder winter temperatures. Every year there is snowfall in some of the towns and the higher areas in the southern region. This is quite
Nothing, I
different
just
from
want
the
people to
typical
come down
image
so I
of
have
Rio de
someone to
Janeiro,
drink
isn't
with.
it? This southern area accounts for about 10% of the country. The coastal plains are generally warm and tropical year-round. Brazil has 5 large administrative regions that more or less correspond to the different climate and landscape areas of the country. The North region consists of mainly the Amazon rainforest, which is the largest rainforest in the world.
But it never
This region
fucking
is very
snows
sparsely
here.
populated with
Thank
only about
you.
15 million people, so there aren't very many highways and people mainly travel by riverboat. There are many rivers in the region, but of course the one that we've all heard of is the Amazon River, the largest river in the world based on volume of water. The Amazon rainforest is home to a wide variety of wildlife.
Don't worry,
including
I'll get to the bitching
jaguars,
after.
sloths, an incredible variety of monkeys. In fact, Brazil has more species of monkeys than any other country in the world, and anacondas.
No, I think
which are sometimes
America
said to
has,
be
if you
the
look at the
largest
loony
snakes
left's
in the
behavior,
world.
they have the biggest,
The northeast region is mostly
you guys have
dry,
the biggest
desert-like
proportion of
conditions
fucking
and
monkeys.
sparse vegetation.
Hairless
It is a very
monkeys, they're
populated
called
region with 53
Democrats.
million people, but unfortunately it is the most impoverished region in Brazil. This was the first region that was discovered by Portuguese settlers when they first arrived in Brazil. The largest city in this region is Salvador, which was the first capital of Brazil. Salvador is often called the largest African city outside of Africa because 82% of its population are the descendants of African slaves. The central west region is located on a highland plateau and is mostly savanna. That means that it's a grassy flatland without many trees. With a population of only
That's
13
kinda like
million
what my,
people, this area has
father-in-law's
a low
land looks
population
like.
density and is the least industrialized of all the regions in Brazil. Similar to the north region, there is a wide variety of wildlife here, including capybaras, giant
I almost hit a
armadillos,
capybara
giant
with the car
anteaters,
the other
and
night.
tapirs. The capital city of Brasilia is also located in this region. It's a city that was intentionally planned and created back in 1956 in order to move the capital city from Rio de Janeiro to a more central location in the country. That sounds like a cool idea, but if you ask me, the city looks kind of bland and artificial compared to Brazil's other cities that naturally arose. The southeast region is the region that most people probably think of when they think of Brazil. It
That's
is the
right,
most highly populated region with 80
I live
million people,
south
and
of
it is
Rio.
where the 2 largest cities
Really
of Sao
south.
Paulo and Rio de Janeiro are located. It is the main economic powerhouse of Brazil, producing nearly 1/2 of its GDP. This region lies at the edge of the tropical zone and the temperate subtropical zone, meaning that the northern part of the region is warm and tropical, while the southern part is temperate and has more temperature variation, especially at the higher altitudes. The south region is the temperate region with cool, wet winters and winter snowfall in some of the higher areas. It is also characterized by prairie grasslands. It has a population of
seen
around
a
26
snowflake
million, and
once
it is
since
the
I've
most
been here.
urbanized of all of the different regions. It
That's
also
not
has
a
the
bad
highest
thing.
standard of living of all the different regions, and it happens to be the whitest, and by that I mean the most European of the different regions. And that brings me to the ethnic
That's a tad
composition
bit
of
racist,
Brazil's
don't you think?
population. Brazil has a very ethnically and racially mixed population because of its history, with many Brazilians being of mixed racial heritage. Brazil was founded by Portuguese settlers in the 1500s who brought with them huge numbers of African slaves to work on sugar plantations. They were later followed by new waves of European and Asian immigrants. And of course, there were already native people living in Brazil. At some point, Brazil had an intentional policy of race mixing, of whitening the largely black population. According to a survey from 2010, 47.73% of Brazilians consider themselves white, 43.13% consider themselves mixed race, 7.61% consider themselves black, 1.09% consider themselves yellow, I suppose that means Asian, and 0.3% consider themselves indigenous. Another legacy of the colonial period is the religion. Catholicism
they didn't
was
get
brought
rid of
to Brazil
slavery
by the
until,
Portuguese,
like,
and now it's
the
the predominant
1870s.
religion in Brazil with
But,
130
my
million
favorite
Catholics.
is when people
that means
say,
Brazil
"You
has
don't
more
look
Catholics
Brazilian,"
than any other
like,
country in the world. The language is another
like
legacy of the
the
colonial
European
period.
looking-
Portuguese is the only official language
What's
of
Brazilian
Brazil,
look like?
and it is spoken as the main language by the vast
A lot of
majority
Germans here
Brazilians.
too.
Is
So-
Brazilian Portuguese the same as the Portuguese spoken in Portugal? Well, not exactly. There are some differences in vocabulary, some
We have
slight differences in
Oktoberfest
grammar,
here
a different
in
accent,
Santa
and some different
Catarina.
idioms. But basically, it's the same language, and native speakers can manage to communicate with each other.
Everyone.
You're studying Portuguese really hard and
there's
you're
a
getting
few
kind of
that are
tired. Don't
trans,
worry, you
but
can have
even
a
they
big mug
know
of
what gender
Brazilian
they are.
coffee.
They're
Brazil
just
is
like,
the largest exporter
you know,
of coffee in the world and accounts for
prostrate, and
about
they don't try and
30% of the world's
groom
coffee.
kids with it.
Two other things that people
That would-
often
oh, that
think
would
of
get
when you
their ass
mention
beat
Brazil
down
are
here.
football, also known as soccer, and samba. The FIFA
No,
World
actually,
Cup was held
if
in
you
Brazil
walk the
in
streets, you'll see a
2014,
lot that
which
are
seems
lighter than
suitable
I am.
since Brazil
But
is
they're like
possibly
from
the most
German
football-crazy
descent,
country
German
in the
descent,
world.
Portuguese.
Brazil is the only country whose team has qualified for the
just-
World Cup
they were
every
just
single
born in
year
Brazil,
since
so they're
the event
Brazilian.
began.
They
And
just
there are
take,
over 10,000
they have that
Brazilians
European
playing
look,
professional
and then you
soccer
have like
around
very
the world.
dark people,
Another
and you have-
Brazilian
then you have like
offering
my
to the
wife
world
who's
is samba.
native.
Samba is a
She's
genre
native.
of music and dance
She's
that
actually
began
from
in Rio
Paraguay.
de Janeiro but has its original roots in West Africa. Samba is the music and dance of the Brazilian Carnival, the annual week-long festival that unites all of Brazil and nearly brings the country to a halt. That energy and spirit of the Brazilian people
Like
is one
I
of the
fit in
things that
here.
makes the world
People don't.
interested
If I
in
spoke
Brazil.
fluent
That, along
Portuguese,
with its amazing
like a native,
nature and
they wouldn't even
generally
know I
great
wasn't
weather,
Brazilian.
make it one of the destinations
Which I'm trying to
on
learn.
my
That's why I
bucket
go to
list.
college.
Thank you for watching the GeoFocus channel. Be sure to subscribe so you can see more country profiles similar to this one. Have a nice day.
Here comes the bitching. I've had some of the terrorist sympathizers posting shit all over my Facebook. Most people who know my past know I hate fucking terrorists. I believe they're right up there with child molesters and just should be fucking killed. By the way, folks, if you support terrorism through marches, whatever, if you support terrorism, you are a terrorist. There is no distinction. You are just a lowlife, scumbag fucking terrorist who should be shot in the fucking head. Just like there's no difference between the groomer who puts their sexual fantasies in a book in a school library and a groomer who tries grooming kids on the internet. There's no difference. You're just a sick fucking groomer. Anyway, I just posted a picture that said, if you support terrorism, you're a terrorist. I had one of those terrorist supporters, or terrorists, come back at me with, if you were in Egypt, he was from Egypt, if you were in Egypt, we'd fucking kill you. So I typed back the honest truth. Motherfucker, you had 2 years to try and couldn't get it done. This is the internet. Too late to talk shit now. He came back with, if you didn't have all that equipment. So I typed back, it wasn't the equipment, bud. You people just fucking suck. Anyway, after that I made this video. I've been sharing it. I hate fucking terrorists. They are the lowest form of fucking life on the planet. Right there with pedophiles. If you target women and children, you're just a scumbag and should be killed. If you use women and children like sandbags, you should be fucking killed. If you didn't have that equipment, if you didn't have those women and children, fucking savages. Anyway, here's the video I've been showing them. Let me give you a personal story about terrorists and why I fucking hate them so much. When I was in Ramadi, Iraq, the terrorists there would send their kids out with these donkey carts with straw on the cart, because kids can generally get closer to the vehicles than grown-ups, because sometimes we throw candy out or something. Stupid idea. Hearts and minds. So on that cart, under the straw, they would put like 2 155 millimeter artillery shells with a remote detonator, you know, like a cell phone or remote control car controller. And they would blow up their own fucking kids. Hey terrorists, fuck you. I hope you all fucking die in a fire, slowly, as your skin melts off and you scream in fucking agony. The difference between a soldier and a terrorist, I left my wife and kids at home. You hide behind yours, you fucking savages. I've even made one detailing what their own Quran says about the Israelis and basically telling them they should either get off Israeli land or stop making war because they suck at it. Fucking hate them. Well, I'm all for support voter ID and direct voter tally. Oh, actually, no. Well, yeah, some Nazis, but there was like a surge for employment or something. Once they did away with slavery, a bunch of people came here to work. Japanese, too. A lot of Japanese came here to work.
أردت فقط أن أطرح هذا الأمر على أصدقائنا المسلمين في غزة أو حولها، وآمل أن يساعد. 1. لا تطلق النار على الأشخاص الذين لا يمكنك التغلب عليهم، مثل الإسرائيليين وأي دولة أخرى في العالم الأول تقريبا. 2. إذا تعرضت للضرب في حرب خلال 6 أيام فقط ترغب في تسوية أمرك. 3. إذا كنت ستخوض حربا مثل الناس فقد ترغب في أن تتقن الحرب. فقط بعض النصائح كما تعلمون، لذلك ربما تتوقفون عن إحراج أنفسكم.
Oh, did I say terrorists should fucking die a horrible fucking death? Did I say that? I don't know if I said. Yeah, because she didn't want to go through the trial. That's all it was. Because they're being targeted. And there's no fucking way you're going to win. You do realize, like, the DA gets to pick who they put on the jury as well as the defense. And, of course, the judge is, I don't know if he's Soros-backed or not, but I do know Fanny, the district attorney, is. Someone just needs to, because I'm not under your jurisdiction, you can't send your little secret police to come after me. Someone needs to put a bullet in fucking Soros's head. Hey, matter of fact, there's quite a list.
There have been some left-wing Democrats in Congress who blamed Israel. There have been left-wing radical groups.
Yeah, how the fuck are they still in Congress? They're terrorist sympathizers.
Student groups that put out a statement that said all of this violence is 100% Israel's fault. That is utterly bizarre. And I got to say, anyone who finds moral ambiguity, anyone who claims there's some justification.
Personally, I think we should pass a bill that if you support terrorism, you should be fucking deported immediately.
There's no justification for decapitating babies. What they're doing here is horrific and it is evil, period, full stop.
There are those voices there across this region and elsewhere who say the price of military action is too great, that too many civilians are now dying, too many Palestinians
The civilians, the Palestinians voted to have Hamas on their fucking government.
The responsibility isn't on us.
Suck it up, bitches.
You should take that question straight back to Hamas. We are here because we have no other choice.
Congressman Allred, do you regret calling for the release of millions of dollars to
Here's
Hamas?
one of those terrorist supporters right there.
Can't do this here.
Congressman Allred, do you regret calling for the release of millions of dollars to Hamas?
You really can't do that.
Congressman Allred, do you regret calling for the release of millions of dollars to Hamas?
You really
I'll
can't
get the
do that
Capitol
in
Police for
here.
you. And they can,
Do you regret voting against Iron Dome funding as Hamas attacked Israel with rockets aimed at civilians?
you're on federal property. Stop doing this.
Why are you standing with Hamas over Israel?
All right.
Why are you supporting Biden's open border policies?
We'll get the Capitol Police for you.
Why did you funnel taxpayer dollars to a group hosting drag shows for children?
Yeah, since she copped a plea to a bunch of misdemeanors.
Gotta figure out how to make money on this thing. It's simply too good. Gotta figure out how to make money on this. I really want to.
Oh yeah, I'm waiting to see when they have to bring back the draft, if they're going to draft these gender-confused
U.S.
fucks.
troops prepare for potential deployment to Israel. The report comes as Gaza braces for a ground invasion by the Israeli military in response to last week's horrific massacre, which was carried out by Hamas. By Ian Miles Chong, October 16, 2023 News. The U.S. military is preparing around 2,000 soldiers for a potential deployment
I had a bunch
to
of
Israel,
Brazilians ask me if they
according
could
to
call
U.S.
me back
defense
to duty
officials
and
who
send me.
spoke to the Wall Street Journal
if they're
on
calling
Monday.
me up, shit's already over.
The report comes as Gaza braces for a ground invasion by the Israeli military in response to last week's horrific massacre.
And if he has a press pass, yes, he can ask any question he wants. It's called First
The
Amendment.
soldiers will be tasked with missions like providing advice and medical support.
Although I
The
don't think a
officials
single
informed
Democrat has ever read the
publication,
fucking
adding that they come
Constitution.
from across various branches of the U.S.
Or
military.
they've read it in an attempt to find
Their
a way to
role
get
will be
around it.
non-combat, and no infantry have been put on prepare to deploy order, per the Wall Street Journal. Currently, the soldiers are stationed in both the Middle East and outside, including in Europe. It isn't clear how they will be deployed if they're sent to Israel, or where exactly they will be headed, but the Department of Defense has signaled support to Israeli troops should the IDF launch a ground incursion into Hamas-held Gaza.
Does anyone else remember when the loony left kept saying Trump was going to start World War III? Pepperidge Farms remembers.
U.S. troops attacked in Iraq, Syria, and on alert for more strikes. By Idris Ali. October 19, 20239:56 p.m. GMT3 updated a day ago. Washington, October 19, Reuters, U.S. troops have been repeatedly attacked in Iraq and Syria in recent days, U.S. officials said on Thursday, as Washington is on heightened alert for activity by Iran-backed groups with regional tensions soaring during the Israel-Hamas war. President Joe Biden has sent naval power to the Middle East in the past 2 weeks, including 2 aircraft carriers, other warships, and about 2,000 Marines. There has been an uptick in attacks on U.S. forces since the conflict in Israel broke out on October 7 when Palestinian militants from Hamas attacked southern Israel. On Wednesday, a drone hit U.S. forces in Syria resulting in minor injuries, while another one was brought down. During a false alarm at Al-Assad Air Base in Iraq, a civilian contractor died from a cardiac arrest. Earlier this week, U.S. forces thwarted multiple drones targeting troops in Iraq. On Thursday, drones and rockets targeted the Ain al-Assad Air Base, which hosts U.S. and other international forces in western Iraq, and multiple blasts were heard inside the base.
Now I want you to remember while you're listening to this,
Rockets
our border
hit
is
another
still open
military
while your
base
border is still
hosting
open.
U.S. forces near Baghdad's international airport, Iraqi police said on Thursday, without providing further details. While I'm not going to forecast any potential responses to these attacks, I will say that we will take all necessary actions to defend U.S. and coalition forces against any threat, Pentagon spokesman Brigadier General Patrick Ryder told reporters on Thursday. Any response, should one occur, will come at a time in a manner of our choosing, Ryder said. A U.S. Navy warship traveling near Yemen on Thursday intercepted missiles and several drones that were launched by what Ryder said was the Iran-aligned Houthi movement, though it appeared that the projectiles were potentially heading in the direction of Israel.
This is what you get for putting a fucking idiot in charge of the strongest, well, what was the strongest military in the world. Now we have people in the military who have no idea what fucking gender they are. I wonder what will happen when World War III, or if World War III pops off, and they have to bring back the draft. Are they going to start drafting these gender-confused motherfuckers? Because according to Army regulations, they are non-deployable. They're too busy going through their little surgeries and their hormone therapy, which is another thing that just popped into my head. I think I asked it last week. Doctors say that human growth hormones, injecting yourself with those, is bad for your body. You mean to tell me injecting yourself with a shit ton of the opposite gender's hormones isn't? This is what happens when you put a fucking idiot in charge. They should get rid of the selective service system and put in the voting registry system, where based on your party affiliation, whoever's in the White House, whoever's commander-in-chief, is who gets drafted. If the commander-in-chief happens to be an idiot Democrat, Democrats get drafted. If the president in the office is an idiot Republican and he starts a war, Republicans get drafted. Same with gas prices and everything else. Right now, if you pull up to a gas station and you have a card with a D on it, you should pay current prices. If you pull up to the gas pump and pull out a card with an R on it, who you voted for, you should pay those prices. Voting should have consequences. Not for everyone, just the fucking idiots. Not for everyone, just the fucking idiots. As you can hear, my wife's watching this in the background.
Drones attack a U.S. military base in southern Syria and there are minor injuries, U.S. officials say. By Tara Kopp. Updated 2:32 p.m. GMT-3, October 19, 2023. Share. Washington, AP, a military base in southern Syria where U.S. troops have maintained a presence to train forces as part of a broad campaign against the Islamic State
then
group
they
was
shouldn't be
attacked
allowed
by
to
drones
enlist.
On Thursday,
It's called
two
a
U.S.
mental
officials
illness.
told the Associated Press. One drone was shot down, but another caused
But when the guy in charge has a mental
one of
illness,
the officials
they get to
spoke on
enlist.
condition of anonymity to discuss the matter before an official announcement.
Have you looked
about
at
the
your
incident.
fucking health secretary?
The attacks follow similar drone strikes over the past few days against U.S. and coalition bases in Iraq amid simmering anger in the region after an explosion at a Gaza hospital killed hundreds of people.
Yeah,
the Al-Tanf garrison
Hamas.
in southeastern Syria is located at a sensitive juncture often used by Iranian-backed militants to ferry weapons to Hezbollah. Syrian opposition activists also said Thursday a drone attack was conducted on an oil facility in eastern Syria that houses American troops.
It should
Omar
be right
Abu
on your
Layla,
voter
a
ID
Europe-based
card.
activist who heads the Deir Ezzor 24 media outlet, said 3 drones with explosives struck the Conoco gas field in the eastern province of Deir el-Zur that borders Iraq. Rami Abdurrahman of the Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, an opposition war monitor, confirmed that 5 explosions were heard at the Conoco gas field.
Sorry, forgot the mic. I got into my train of thought because it just fires me up. Grumpy knows about this one because he was accused of being racist. But I want to ask Grumpy this. How many of them were actually black? I'm gonna guarantee you not one black person has ever accused you of being racist. Every person who's accused you of being racist is whiter than you are. Almost guarantee it. Which leads to our next topic. Phony racism. CRT, basically. Race-based Marxism. A little tip to you lily white fucking liberals out there. If you're going to lecture me on white privilege, which I'm still waiting for mine to hit, by the way, you should at least go outside and let the sun touch your skin. If you look like Casper the Friendly fucking Ghost, you shouldn't be lecturing me on white privilege. I should be lecturing you on sunbathing, or at least going outside. Maybe that's why you're such a fucking idiot. You're vitamin D deficient, and your brain doesn't work well without appropriate levels of vitamin D. Maybe there's a correlation between stupid and vitamin D. Now, this next guy lived through segregation, lived through Jim Crow. lived through the civil rights movement, met Martin Luther King Jr., killed by Democrats, by the way, and is attacked relentlessly by the loony left. Lived through actual oppression, yet even he gets lectured by lily-white fucking liberals about oppression. Why? Because he doesn't see himself as a victim. He went through all that stuff, but today's liberals know more than he does. Kendi and his followers hate this guy because if people actually listened to this guy and started becoming successful, Kendi wouldn't make any more money. Kendi is about to, I think, be sued. Anyway, this guy spells out what I've been saying for years better. He does it better than I do, and he actually lived it.
It is not a race problem in America.
When you say that, a lot of people would disagree with you, and they would say, "How could you say that? You know, maybe maybe it wasn't."
It's kind of a
then,
race problem because the loony left are using
you don't know what's going
Black
on
Americans
with the challenges they're facing and the level
idiots.
of racism they're experiencing today in the marketplace. Because maybe you are disconnected, kind of like how you were when you thought everybody was black until you.
And I'm not saying they're idiots.
I'm
just saying they've been. You get hit with so much.
People that literally 100% disagree with you.
Look at Nazi
and they
Germany.
Say there is racism today. It is a challenging time today. What do you say to them?
I say, look at the evidence. Look at the evidence. You know, a lot of people are like the farmer that came to the creek when it was like coming. It was 3 feet high and moving at about 20 miles an hour, and he forced the mule in, and they were swept down the creek. A year later, he comes to the same crossing. This time it's only 6 inches. The mule refuses to go in because the mule had good memory but poor judgment. Conditions were not like they were back in segregation when I was locked up.
Wow, you at least had one. I haven't had one yet.
Conditions have changed.
Every last one of them are whiter than I am.
But again,
not knowing also,
evidence.
I'm married to a Brazilian
when whites were at their worst, we were at our best. As I said,
a woman
in
of color.
1930 to 1940, when segregation
all because
and
I
racism was
don't believe
enshrined in
racism
law,
has
blacks had the highest
anything to
marriage
do with
rate
you
of
being
any
a
group
fucking
in
idiot.
society. Elderly people could walk safely in those communities without fear of being assaulted by their grandchildren.
Well, they don't want to be called racist.
The evidence.
Call me whatever, anything you like.
Access to
you just have to prove
we
it.
Built our own
they never
hotels,
can, but they have to.
Financed by our own means. The Wallahaji.
The only time that word
Carver
means anything is if you fucking care.
In Florida, the St. Charles in Chicago, the St. Teresa in New York. I could go on and on. When we were denied access to colleges, we built our own.
This guy lived
it. In fact,
it.
our small business formation rate was higher than whites in the 20s, and that really determines any group's participation.
But America
in
is more racist
what
today.
Government does for you or what white people do. In fact, I think those who continue to push this race agenda are Eurocentric. They assume that the destiny of blacks is determined by what white people do. That has never been the case. We closed the education gap in the South.
Unless you're a criminal or a crack dealer. Then it can fuck up a neighborhood.
Piers Rosenwald, the CEO of Sears, came together with Booker T. Washington, and he put up $4 million. The black community matched it with $4.8 million. We built 5,000 schools to teach ex-slaves how to read and write. And as a consequence of that study, that in between 1920 and 1940, the education gap in the South between whites and blacks was 3 years. 8th grade for whites, 5th grade for blacks. Mm-hmm. Within 20 years, that gap closed within 6 months. There were 5 high schools at the turn of the century in New York,
in the height of
Washington,
Jim Crow and
Atlanta,
actual racism.
And New Orleans. They had used textbooks, overcrowded classrooms, half the budgets of white schools, but every one of those schools out-tested every white school in those cities. If we were able to close the education gap between 1920 and 1940 through self-determination and hard work, if we were able to out-test white schools in those cities.
Well, even white schools now are shit.
In those same schools today in Baltimore, for instance,
gender ideology and CRT are more important than actually education.
Not a single student could read at grade level or perform at grade level. And so how can you say that it is racism that is the cause of the present day challenges. When under segregation, we achieved. One other example we gave from our studies. In 1943, blacks were prohibited from being naval officers. Eleanor Roosevelt persuaded her husband to train them, so they selected 16 black college-educated men for training, the Naval Academy, not the Academy, Naval Training Center. The Navy
Still
said,
waiting for a loony
we're going
leftist to
give
explain.
these black cadets in 8 weeks what we give white cadets in 16, so they wash out. When these brothers found out what the deal was, they covered the windows in their barracks and stayed up all night and studied. And when they were tested, they scored in the 90th percentile.
Wow.
So then they said, well, they cheated.
The loony left need
So they
useful
tested them
idiots.
individually.
So they
scored
push
in the
this
93rd
narrative.
percentile. 13 of
It's
them
called the
eventually-
populist bomb. I'll get to
13
that
of
in a
them
minute.
eventually became naval officers. They call them the Golden 13. You can
you
look
Google
it up.
this?
That test, the test scores today has never been bettered. So, again, I respond to people with evidence. The incarceration rates of blacks from the turn of the century up to the 60s was under 25%.
Incarceration was
strong
under
family.
25%.
Under 25%.
Where are we at
it
today?
shot up to I think it was like 90,000 blacks were in jail in 1960. That went up to 900,000
10x,
over the next 30 years.
Why do you think that is? What happened? What changed?
In our studies, red, white, and black, we looked
Welfare,
at the
liberal policies.
We looked at the experiences.
Getting women to marry the government.
Plantations to find out what the state of marriage was of slaves.
The new Democrat
75%
plantation.
of those slaves had a man and woman raising children. The nuclear family continued to prosper in the face of segregation for 100 years. But all of that changed in the 60s with the poverty programs.
Lyndon Johnson?
Yes. Johnson came in.
The Great New Deal.
And what happened was the social scientists who were pushing socialism on America, Cloud and Piven at Columbia, said if you disconnect work from income, then
well, the lazy people are actually the people who are making money off this fake racism.
So what the government
they
did
push it
was
like
offer
Goebbels
welfare
pushed
as an
the
alternative
anti-Jew
to
fucking narrative.
a man
They
in the
push it,
house.
push it, push it.
We relaxed
It's in
the
schools
rules.
now. CRT. It's in schools.
separated work from
If you
income, and as a
brainwash somebody with it,
consequence,
guess what?
that
You
was
control
supported
them.
by the Black
There's
Power movement,
the great,
also the
and
women's
I
movement
say this
for
later.
anti-man.
The best way
So
to
you
keep
had a
someone on the
combination of
plantation,
social policy,
don't
but
let them know they're on the
policy alone
plantation.
wouldn't have done it. The federal government enticed blacks to go on welfare. Welfare used to be stigmatized in the black community. But the federal government began to interpret it as reparations and as entitlements. They withdrew any requirement that you should tell the paternity of the father, paternity in cases of pregnancy.
They wanted them to marry the state.
So that more blacks came into the welfare system in the first 5 years of the 70s. Then millions flooded into the system at a time when the unemployment rate was under 4%. So it is a combination of social policies plus the civil rights movement morphed into a race grievance industry, and many of those civil rights leaders became mayors and elected to public office.
Working on CNN,
and we spent $22 trillion during that period on programs to aid the poor, where 70 cents of every dollar went not to the poor, but those who served the poor.
What percentage of it?
70%.
70% of the $22 trillion went to the people that served the poor.
They basically created a new industry.
Are fundable.
The industry of fake racism.
So in other words, a friend of mine described it this way. He's having a cabin built in Wisconsin. His electrician is a drunk
Yep,
and the carpenter.
it's the same
and
in
the
white
alcohol.
communities.
It
I'm not
has one leg.
blacks, but black communities
His value,
aren't
their value
impacted
to
more
him is their
because,
skill.
well, they keep
But
voting
if he was
for
a disabilities director, their value to him would only be the disability. So we have a situation where we have really created a commodity out of poverty.
As a matter of fact, the loony left are
And by
trying
the
to
way, when
make
you're saying
more
these
victim
numbers,
groups.
what it makes me think about
Like
is
there aren't
this.
enough,
So
which is blacks, Hispanics.
if you go back 1940s,
Now they're trying to make gender groups, LGBT, the alphabet mafia,
that were born in America
more victim
are
groups, so they
to a
can tell
single
them
mother.
how horrible the
That
conservatives
increased
are.
from 4% to 40%.
Right.
Okay. And the numbers are staggering where it's at today, specifically
70%.
in 70% in blacks and different in, different communities. Why do you think this happened? And, if you were to say, well, here's how we can get away from this, this is how to fix it. So one, why did it happen? How do we get here? Two, how would you fix it?
Well, first of all, we got here because we had the social policy that incentivized single parents. In other words, I had a young couple.
Still in place.
That, my husband, my husband's a janitor and I'm a secretary, and he lost his job. She said, I applied for welfare as a married couple and they refused me. But she said, if I was a single mother, then I can get help. And so you really provide a disincentive for marriage, and you wonder why you get it. You get more of what you reward and less of what you punish. And so over those decades, we have punished single parent households. The more you work, the more in other words, the more you work, the more the perverse
and the loony left
for
hate
you.
this guy.
If I work and get a raise, I'm going to lose child care. So that's why we have a system that disincentivizes work and marriage.
And you had certain politicians that would use that, but they would spin it for votes. Oh, we're paying poor women to have kids. You would hear that in political speeches. Right. I'm going to change that. We're paying poor women to have kids. And it made it sound like that the poor women were the problem. Right. That they're just taking advantage of it. When you go back and what you're talking about, I think it's important to look at Lyndon Johnson and remember when they were saying the Great Society, it was Great Society for who? Because the government was very, very.
It was great for the Democrats because who are they going to vote for? The person signing their check.
To move and change. They're pretty good at getting us upset, but they really don't get Americans, if you look at history, to really move and change. Our government has never really led, but our government has been excellent at being a catalyst of where they want us to go and to let us go. And to your point, they create this catalyst. What they say with explosive, the explosive isn't the problem. It's the catalyst you put in the explosive. So always keep those guys separate. Government has been the catalyst. And what you're talking about is what they did is they knew what they were doing. And they knew that these things would be a catalyst of changing behavior because they couldn't stand at the pulpit of government and demand that you change. But they could put things out there and sit back and watch. And that's what you're saying.
Right. But I also realized that the question is, what are solutions? Mm-hmm. If you say that 70% of those families are raising children that are dropping out of school, it means 30% are not. What we do at the Woodson Center is we go into low-income communities and we go into the homes of the 30% to find out what is going on in those households. These are people who are raising children that are not dropping out of school, they're not in jail, they're not on drugs. They are confronted with the same economic circumstances, and so the question is, what is it that's going on there?
Right,
that's not
success leaves clues.
Success.
Yes.
So that's why I fault conservatives also, is that they have been preoccupied.
Oh, I do too, yeah.
When it comes to poverty, but only studying failure. So Charles Murray and some of the others, all they do is talk about, okay, if people on welfare, let's take away the perverse incentives. I'm for work requirements. I'm for drug testing. But you can't stop there. What we do at the Woodson Center is that we go look for capacity. And so many of the people in the 30% We need to hold them up and take what works for the 30% and expand it to the 70%, and that's what we do. But it's
the
a moral
70%
and
don't want
crisis, and it is not an economic and
70%
social crisis.
of them voted for Sniffy Joe.
Policy, be
That
the
should
left,
tell
the right,
you
of
something.
center, takes very little into account of restoration, moral redemption, faith. And many of our groups who have been able to survive under the worst of circumstances is because of their faith. But the whole issue of faith is not even a factor in supporting people's restoration. We have gone into some of the most drug-infested, crime-ridden neighborhoods where there were 53 gang murders in the 5 square block area in 2 years, 25 years ago in D.C. We supported 5 young men who were ex-offenders who came to Christ and became redeemed. But they had the moral authority and the social trust of their peers. And so they went into these neighborhoods and brought the leadership of these kids who were doing destructive things. And they became agents of remoralization of these kids. And it's just like in the marketplace, only 3% of the people are entrepreneurs. They generate 70% of the jobs, right? Well, a lot of these organizations are social entrepreneurs. It only takes a small number of them if you can change them and make them an agents of a restoration. They can change a whole community. And we found that to be the case in this community called Benning Terrace. By just going in and reaching 16 kids who were leading predators and changing their values and their attitudes.
How do you do that?
By witnessing to them. You take some man who has been in jail, who has faced all the challenges from an abused household and saying, you are not defined by the worst of what you were. And I'm a witness that you don't have to
that's
stay
all the
there
Looney
because
Left
you've
does
been there.
is point
Where
out
did the self-help
the past.
mindset come to you?
See how
Where
that
did
works?
the self-help mindset come?
By looking at what we did in the past. In other words, what I've done by learning, if our people could, in the face of slavery and discrimination, build families and restore their communities, then all we've got to do is go back and take the values that served the interests of our people then
But
and
the Looney
apply
Left
them
hate
today.
this
In other
guy.
words, taking old values and apply them to new realities with the consequence that you can. But a witness is more powerful than an advocate. And experience will always prevail.
And you don't have to use
against
religion. You just
an
have
argument.
to use your life
I debated
experience.
this with Hawk Newman. It's on YouTube for 1 hour. I didn't argue with him. I confronted his proposition with my facts and saying, if we were able to learn and close the education gap under segregation, why can't we do it today?
Because they want,
And so,
if
so
you're
that's what
educated,
you have,
you're not going to vote Democrat.
We don't realize the power
probably
of
wouldn't
somebody
vote
coming to
Republican
a
either.
young man or young woman who has been engaged in antisocial behavior. Supply them with a mentor that witnesses to them to say, why don't you use your skill and talents to rebuild the community and not tear it down?
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one,
And that's
click
why
right here.
they-
And if you want to watch
hold
the
on.
entire podcast, click
And
right
that's why they keep the tit coming. Well, both parties do, but more so the Democrats. And matter of fact, this next clip, it's the same gentleman commenting on comments by Malcolm X. This is a lot of things. There's a lot of things I don't agree with from Malcolm X, but I wholeheartedly agree with what he says here. After I'm done, I'll play something I wrote probably last year. I think Grumpy's heard it. And thanks to the next speech technology, I'll be able to record, not knowing I'd be doing a podcast later. Anyway, Malcolm X was talking about this decades before I did mine. He's 100% right on this thing. You actually, everybody wants to be victims. You actually get points for it. There's money in it. Want proof? Kendi made $300 a minute giving speeches about fake racism. Black Lives Matter, by large mansions, made $85 million on fake racism. There's money in victimhood. I went into the wrong line of work. I should be telling people they're victims.
I want to play this clip to you. Did you ever have any interactions with MLK or Malcolm X?
Yes, I did. I met Dr. King. In fact, he came to, I did my civil rights work in Westchester, Pennsylvania. That's the home of Baird Rustin.
Killed by Democrats.
And so Rustin would bring Dr. King to town to bring the media. Then they would focus on our local issues.
And you met him face to face?
Oh, yeah.
And what was it like when you met Dr. King?
Just a wonderful experience. He was the one who said that we must reach down into the deep, dark regions of our soul and sign and ink our own Emancipation Proclamation. Malcolm X said the same thing. He said, our destiny is never determined by what an oppressor does or does not do. He said, our destiny is determined by what we do. Frederick Douglass said the same thing.
But those messages are being spun today. They're not, these are two heroes to two different sects of the African American community sometimes, and some the same. But it's spun in a different way, where it's still coming more from the victimhood mentality.
At the end of this, we may be going over to see some groomers.
Not coming from the fact that we can stand up and do something about it. I want to play this clip to you by Malcolm X. It's just audio. The video isn't out there. It's just purely audio. And I want to get your thoughts on this. Go ahead and play this.
The white liberal differs from the white conservative only in one way. The liberal is more deceitful, more hypocritical than the conservative. Both want power, but the white liberal is the one who has perfected the art of posing as the Negro's friend and benefactor. And by winning the friendship and support of the Negro, the white liberal is able to use the Negro as a pawn or a weapon in this political football game that is constantly raging between the white liberals and the white conservatives. The American Negro is nothing but a political football, and the white liberals control this ball through tricks or tokenism, false promises of integration and civil rights. In this game of deceiving and using the American Negro, the white liberals have complete cooperation of the Negro civil rights leader, who sell our people out for a few crumbs of token recognition, token gains, token progress.
Now, when you hear this,
basically what he was saying was, hey, Kendi, fuck you.
60s. Because he died, I want to say, February of 1965. MLK died, Dr. King died April 4th of 68, right? So this message is being given at a time where it's like, wait a minute, were white liberals the same then as they are today? Have they been at it for this long of a time where even Malcolm X said this? How do you process what Malcolm X just said in this message?
I totally agree, and it's been the foundation of everything that I have done since then. That's what drove me. I go further by saying that many of the black elected officials and others commit treason against their own people by using race to deflect attention away from their own failures. In Baltimore, when Freddie Gray was killed, that's when, to deflect attention away from why are blacks failing in school systems and in cities run by their own people for the past 50 years. If racism were the issue, then tell me, why are they failing? But the answer that they give is, well, the
fucking
police
Chicago
are agents of white supremacy. There's always a racial deflection that prevents them from taking responsibility of why they are running their systems. But many of them are hypocrites because they don't live by the same rules. Eleanor Holmes Norton, Jesse Jackson, all of them sent their children to
EBT
private schools in Washington while opposing school choice for poor black people. So you have this contradiction, but race really is being used as a shield and a sword, a shield to deflect attention away from their failure to address problems that were promised by the civil rights movement.
How can you manipulate for this long, though? One may ask, how can you manipulate? 2012, 93% of African Americans voted Democrat. 2016, 89% of African Americans voted Democrat.
Social Security is projected to be bankrupt by 2030.
So 93,
another
89,
failed socialist
87
program.
voted Democrat. Malcolm X said this at the year that he said.
Reagan wanted to make Social Security private.
An entire voting block, an entire
like
community for this many decades.
Because race is a very emotional, deeply emotional
and that's
issue.
your retirement.
It's like the state of Israel is to Jews. It's an emotional issue, like abortion is to the
loony left
right
didn't want
life.
that because
And
they don't have their
so
little, they can't control it.
And they know it.
It's
and
socialism.
They do manipulate it,
the government can't control it. They can't control your money.
Republicans have not been competitive either.
Another failed socialist program. There's never been a successful socialist program.
He was the first Republican mayor in 35 years. How did he do that? Dick Riordan planted charitably 2 years before he harvested politically. He went to the low-income Hispanic community and said, what is it that you need to rebuild your community? And he brought some of his friends to the table, and they built a state-of-the-art facility so that those communities could engage in the after-school activities to teach English. It was only after he planted
they're counted right up till they get to
those
the required
Democratic leaders embraced Dick Riordan, and he became the first Republican mayor in 35 years. And when he got reelected by 60% of the demographic, DeSantis in 2018
No, she's the queen. There's a difference.
Got elected because of the black vote. He ran against Gillum, right?
Mm-hmm. Andrew Gillum.
But DeSantis only won by 32,000 votes because 100,000 low-income black parents voted because of his position on choice in education. They voted for him, even though Barack Obama and Oprah Winfrey was brought in to campaign for Gillum. So you have 100,000 blacks voting against Obama and voting against Oprah to elect because they made a decision based upon the content of the issue. And not enough Republicans did what DeSantis did. And when they do, I think they will be competitive. But apathy is what's keeping blacks also.
I thought there was a party switch
neighborhoods
somewhere.
In the mayor's race, only 8 to 10% of the people vote because there's just such deep apathy in those communities. But low-income blacks are sleeping giants. They're going to wake up one day soon.
Low-income blacks are going to wake up one day.
Wake up and realize how they're being pimped, how they're being used.
What's the tipping point? What needs to happen for them to wake up? Because it's been 60 years.
The violence that is you're seeing now, a lot of unrest. 80% of black Americans polled do not support defund the police. 80%. But you won't know that by looking at the media.
He said that word, media.
And 60% of blacks do not believe that.
It's a sad state of affairs when pro wrestling is more real than fucking the media.
And so the challenge that we have is and what we're doing at the Woodson Center is giving voice to those people. We have about a couple thousand women who are Voices of Black Mothers United. These are moms who lost children to urban violence.
Thankfully, Grumpy, it's only happened to me once, and I didn't own shit. So.
In Silicon Valley is suicide among teenagers. And in Appalachia is prescription drugs. Well, the Woodson Center brought together representatives from those 3 communities. We call it the Mothers Consortium. And it was just common ground there. We were united. And so what we must do is we must deracialize race. But it's not enough to talk about what you're against. You got to talk about what you're for.
See someone's skin color just see if they're a fucking idiot? I think
the saving of
I've been doing that for years, and I still get called racist.
What we're doing at the Woodson Center is mobilizing mothers from those 3 communities to come together and say that we must do everything we can to fill the hole that's in the hearts of our children that causes them to devalue their life to the point where they're willing to take their own or take someone else's. It's different sides of the same coin.
So did you find out what the reasoning was for homicide, for suicide, and for prescription drugs? Like, what's the reason they're doing it? Emptiness.
Emptiness. When you keep telling, when you keep broadcasting to people that they live in a country that despises them, particularly with low-income blacks, that you live in a country that despises you, like the 1619 Project said, that racism defines all whites are villains and victimizers and they're privileged. That message gets communicated
Still waiting
to blacks
for my
that
white
perhaps
privilege
the
to
reason
hit.
that this is happening is because they are unworthy. So the message of unworthiness comes from the very people who are supposed to be social justice warriors. And you say to a child, a white child, that you're devalued because you're privileged and you are an oppressor. Those are very dangerous messages that we're sending to our children when we keep saying to them that they live in a country that despises them because they're white and derides them because they're black. I mean, that's a very poisonous message.
More people
and
run
that's
to
why
that very
Center,
country
we're doing
of
everything
color
we can
than any other
to
in the world.
mobilize that consensus among the people suffering the problem.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast,
The victims of the Democratic playing card deck. This group makes up the core of the voting element as far as the Democratic Party goes, and thus helps the most to promote the leftist cause. These are the people who think they've been wrong or disadvantaged, or have been told that they've been wronged or disadvantaged. They're also being told that the opposing parties, Republicans and conservatives, are out to wrong them and disadvantage them even further.
Trying to figure out how I've
These are the
wronged or
things commonly
disadvantaged
referred
anyone
to
of
as
them
playing
broke
the
as they are.
race/age/gender/class card. This is used very often by liberals, so get ready to hear a lot of it. It works, it is effective, and this second group of people, the victims, falls for it very easily. As a result,
Holy
they become
shit, now that
slaves
face
of the
should be
liberal
outlawed.
mindset.
That face needs a mask.
Look no further than how the Democrats try to scare African Americans into believing that Republicans are holding them down, how the Democrats try to scare middle-class Americans into thinking Republicans are hurting the middle class, and how the Democrats try to scare women into thinking Republicans are against their rights. Democrats also frequently try to scare senior citizens into thinking Republicans want to destroy Social Security. Look at the key words mentioned in these accusations: against, holding down, hurting, destroying. In essence, it is fear-mongering targeted at certain groups of people in society, and it works. These Democrats and leftists attempt to spin the issues into backing up this fear-mongering, and people listen to it. And as a result, this entire second group is formed the victims of the Democratic playing card deck. These people often do not know much about the issues, especially as far as fact and reality goes. What they do think they know, however, is that Republicans and conservatives are completely against them and trying to hold them down, or their issue, in general. They believe the way they do because of the total spin and fear-mongering they hear from Democratic and liberal leaders. They then go out and vote for these said Democrats and become strong leftists, mostly out of fear and loathing of the other side values instilled into them. Furthermore, they become very likely to start calling conservatives bigots and racists because of the lies that the liberal left has drilled into their heads.
Yes, racism in 2023. What do you mean you gotta treat me like everybody else? What do you mean you're colorblind? Now here's the one I wrote about a year ago about the modern Democrat plantation. And I think you've heard me say it more than once. It's the same Democrats from slavery to Jim Crow to the KKK. Just different plantations. It's easy to keep people on your plantation when they don't know they're on a plantation. Tell me I'm wrong.
I just heard the best description of the modern plantation from Dinesh D'Souza. I couldn't have laid it out any better. As you're listening to this, remember when AOC didn't want Amazon to come to New York City?
I know I turned
Something
it on.
that
I
Charles
turned the mic
Barkley,
on
the
for the last
basketball
part.
player, commented on, and he's talking about the present, not about the past. A very interesting parable. Barkley goes, I've been noticing that poor people have been voting for the Democratic Party for 50 years, and they're still poor. Now what's
Consider
he
a
getting at?
payback for having to buffer
I
last
think what
night.
he's saying is that what we have seen in Detroit, St. Louis, and in Baltimore, in the inner cities of this country. A kind of revival of the old. Well, it's a new form of
I'm
the
still
old
waiting for
plantation,
one of you
and what
to
I mean
try
by that is
Skype
if you
and
think
call
of the
in.
plantation as people
You're
living
going
in
to have
complete
to one night,
dependency.
Grumpy, so we can have you on
They
the
can't
show.
get off the plantation. Now they get their basic provisions on the plantation, but it's very meager, but nevertheless it's enough to sustain you, and you're there and you're stuck. Now, I'm not saying that the inner city
Oh, did
is
I
the same.
say,
Obviously
tonight,
it's not the
fuck
same.
terrorists,
People
I
aren't
hope you
being
all
forced
fucking
to work
die.
against their will. In fact, a lot of them aren't working, but there is a certain kind of frozenness to the plantation. And what I notice is very bizarre and very telling is that when there are efforts to change the plantation, they are vigorously fought by progressives and progressive Democrats. So for example, in a lot of inner cities now, there are these gentrification movements in which yuppies come in with technology companies and they say, all right, you know what we're going to do. We're going to put in all these new buildings. We're going to create all these new jobs. We're going to open Starbucks. We're going to create all this enterprise, and we're going
Grumpy,
to make this
if you
into
look
a
in the
kind of
dictionary
enterprise
under
zone of
gross,
productivity and
you
prosperity.
see her face.
And we're also going to pay money to the people who are in there now. So they can move elsewhere or stay here, and if they stay here there will be more jobs and better food, and we're going to clean up the place, and crime rates will go down. Progressive Democrats will inevitably
Remember when she said
mobilize
get
and
up in
fight
their
desperately
face?
to block
Not
these
with that face. I
gentrification
think that
schemes.
if I killed you, that would be self-defense.
More jobs, more prosperity, less crime, safer neighborhoods. What's not to like?
A face that could cure
And if
cancer.
you have to move, your property values have gone up already enormously, so you can sell and cash out and move where you want. But no, you have to fight these progressive Democrats. Why? Because you can't disrupt the plantation. The plantation has its uses. There are different forms of exploitation if you have figured out a way to create a political class that you depend on politically, that's delivering 90% of its votes to you, and if any of those guys got jobs and moved out they would no longer be beholden to you. That's not a very good situation, and it bears an uncanny resemblance to the policies of the past. The name of that political class? The victims of the Democratic playing card deck. This group makes up the core of the voting element as far as the Democratic Party goes, and thus helps the most to promote the leftist cause. These are the people who think they've been wrong or disadvantaged, or have been told that they've been wronged or disadvantaged, by politicians or by academia, the intellectual left. They're also being told that the opposing party are out to wrong them and disadvantage them even further. These are the things commonly referred to as playing the race, age, gender, or class card. This is used the most by liberals, so get ready to hear a lot of it. It works, it is effective, and this second group of people, the victims, fall for it very easily. As a result, they become slaves of the liberal mindset. Pun intended. Look no further than how the progressive Democrats try to scare African Americans into believing that conservatives are holding them down, how the progressive Democrats try to scare middle-class Americans into thinking conservatives are hurting the middle class, and how the progressive Democrats try to scare women into thinking conservatives are against their rights. Progressive Democrats also frequently try to scare senior citizens into thinking conservatives want to destroy Social Security. Look at the key words mentioned in these accusations: against, holding down, hurting, destroying. In essence, it is fear-mongering targeted at certain groups of people in society, and it works. These progressive Democrats and leftists attempt to spin the issues into backing up this fear-mongering, and people listen to it. And as a result, this entire second group is formed, the victims of the Democratic playing card deck. These people often do not know much about the issues, especially as far as fact and reality goes. What they do think they know, however, is that conservatives are completely against them and trying to hold them down, or their issue in general.
It's called
They
CRT.
believe the way they do because of the total spin and fear-mongering they hear from progressive Democrat leaders. They then go out and vote for these said progressive Democrats, and become strong leftists, mostly out of fear and loathing of the other side, values instilled into them. Furthermore, they become very likely to start calling conservatives bigots and racists, because of the lies that the liberal left has drilled into their heads. And yet, they'll remain just as poor, nothing will change, and they'll probably die on the progressive Democrat plantation.
Thankfully, I'm tech savvy and I can find articles and have the people who wrote the articles read them for me. This is Barbara Howard, a black American trying to get her people to get off the Democrat plantation. Who will these people listen to? They won't listen to me. Remember what I said in the last video? Charles Barkley said it. They've been voting for Democrats for 50 years and they're still poor. Think about this. I think Louisiana New Orleans finally elected a Republican mayor. Finally, yet hadn't elected a Republican mayor or conservative mayor since 1870. Chicago has not elected a conservative mayor since 1923. Yes, the problem is racist Republicans. Anyway, this is what she has to say about the Democrat plantation. Fake fucking racism, folks.
Stuck on the Democratic plantation. Barbara Howard, July 13, 2017. By Barbara Howard. For over 20 years, I have attempted to open the eyes of intelligent, successful black folk, established African Americans, American-born, African-born, Caribbean-born, etc., all who have reached the pinnacle of success in their various fields of endeavor. I say attempted, because each time I walk away from a political discussion with my brothers and sisters, I feel as if I have been talking to walls. I often tell the story of the minor success I had when I asked my youngest daughter to proofread one of my articles. She said, "Mama, you can't say that." I told her to do the research, and she would discover I was telling the truth. She was so shocked upon learning that my position on how the Democratic Party controlled the black community was actually an accurate one. She began to continue to read my articles and eventually changed her registration to Republican. But when she went to share her newfound knowledge with her friends, she was shocked even more at their change of attitude towards her, and how they lashed out at her in their refusal to accept the truth. So she chose to never discuss politics with them again. I find it so amazing that most folk have accepted the negative propaganda against Republicans with absolutely no evidence to support their opinion, much like this witch hunt against POTUS, Donald Trump, with this so-called Russian collusion. The left has determined that Trump is an illegitimate president, and they want to discredit his every move in order to get rid of him, pure and simple. For decades, they have, through the mainstream media, MSM, promoted the idea that the Republicans are racists, misogynists, homophobes, xenophobes, sexists, and just plain mean people who hate the elderly and young alike, and now Donald Trump is the epitome of this hate. Each election season these characterizations of Republicans emerge. They did for George W. Bush as well as for Mitt Romney. And candidates in local, state and federal levels all get painted with that same broad brush. But I have never seen such vitriol as there is against Trump. There were protest marches before and after the inauguration, and over 7 months after Trump took office, liberals are still marching and spewing hatred toward him. They are determined to make him a traitor to this country, and a puppet of the dreaded Russian Empire. Billionaire liberal elites even organized protests in Germany at the G20 summit where anarchists put over 100 police in the hospital and started fires in the middle of the street, burning cars and other flammable items, creating havoc wherever they went. Even NYC Mayor Bill de Blasio flew to Germany to address a G20 protest event and slammed his own president while he was there. What makes this even worse, it was one day after one of NY's finest, Officer Myosotis Familia was assassinated in an unprovoked attack in the Bronx by a crazed madman with an unrelenting hatred for cops.
Actually,
While the
he had an
NYPD, her
unrelenting
family, and
hatred
friends
for white
mourned this
cops.
beautiful and caring mother of three who also cared for her own sick and dying mother, de Blasio was jetting to Germany to spew his well-known hatred against the police. Then he had the nerve to come back in time to show his face at her wake and in front of the cameras. By the way, Officer Familia was black. The treatment of Familia by de Blasio is the same as the treatment of all black folk by liberals in this country. As long as they stay in their place, liberals pretend they love them/us. But have no time for those of us who leave the plantation and become registered Republicans. Just ask Dr. Ben Carson, Donald Trump's Secretary of HUD. When we don't march or think in lockstep with liberals, we become targets, especially by other blacks. Congresswoman Maxine Waters, well known for her animus towards Trump, called Dr. Carson everything but a child of God, and has threatened to take his ass apart when he testifies before the House Committee on Financial Services, on which she is the ranking member.
I watched
Like
that.
Maxine
She didn't.
Waters,
She's not smart
black
enough to
elected
even keep
officials
up with
across
him.
this country see their jobs as not to represent their constituents, but to keep black folks stuck on the Democratic plantation, a one-party community in a two-party system.
Sorry. This brings me to the end of my portion of the podcast. Does anybody else have anything they want to discuss? These are just the things that chapped in my ass this week. The terrorist wannabes, the lily white liberals telling me about my white privilege. Anybody else have anything they just want to fucking lose their mind over? If you have Skype, you can literally call in and lose your shit on the show. And I'm going to be adding... not Skype. WhatsApp to the show, so you can call in on WhatsApp too, and I'll put my number out there for you if you ask. If not, I'll end the podcast. And I like Hound of Goshen's. Actually, I don't even think a dried apple could match that face. Something hit by a fucking tractor trailer, yeah, I could see that. Things that make, I wonder if I have that, things that make you go, no, I can't, I could have swore I put it in here. I like that one, but, Looney left and race. Well, the other day I had idiot trying to defend socialism, and of course I have like hours of socialism. I'll look that up. Corn Cob, she's it wouldn't matter if she testified or not. The shit's made up. They did. Democrats have done it in. Let me see if I can find it. I have it somewhere. Just got to find it. Let me put in an extra screen here. Duplicate. Yes. See if I can find it in my collection. I collect stuff. Like, it's not what you know, it's what you can find out. You guys work, I'm retired, so I can look for stuff. I think I can get rid of my script. Just go straight to but listen to what they're saying and then ask yourself, it don't sound right. Because like the news, they have to tell the truth, or they'll get sued like Fox News. But they'll bury it in so much bullshit. You have to be smart enough to go through the bullshit and look up the numbers and all that shit, and that's all I do. So when I share stuff, like from CNN or MSNBC, understand, I'm doing that because that way that's another thing the loony left drives me crazy with. Grumpy Farmer will tell you I have never ever used a Fox News link for anything. I've always used CNN, MSNBC, BBC, foreign stuff. I was a farmer till I was 17, and then I joined the army so I could get an extra hour of sleep. I was a farmer till I was 17, and then I joined the army so I could get an extra hour of sleep. I've got the start of a herd here in Brazil. I'm actually thinking about moving, buying a ranch at a Cames, where my in-laws live and where I'm from. But to be honest, I don't want to farm again. But I mean, if I have to, I'm getting a horse. That's a given already. I've already looked at saddles. I've ridden horse all my life. But let me see if I can find the what the hell were we talking about? Oh yeah, the testifying against Trump. It doesn't matter. It's all made up shit. Okay. Because. Podcast, I think I still have it in live videos. Maybe not. It's yeah, I can get it on YouTube. It's video capture, window capture, display capture. Got to go over to my because. If these videos are accurate, these guys, the Democrats, were committing felonies according to their own standards. That's what they're charging Trump with. So, this is what they're charging Trump with. Let me look it up because I've already had it. I've downloaded it before, but Democrats deny election result. There we go. Just got to get it going. So, according to their own standards, they've committed a felony. Got to get through the ads. I don't have.
Se você gosta de alimento. Certification. Manager Raskin, you'd been in Congress only 3 days when you objected in 2017. It's one of the first things you did when you got here.
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified.
Is the objection in writing and signed?
So they're committing felonies according to Georgia.
But also by a senator.
It is in writing, Mr. President.
Is it signed by a senator?
Not as of yet, Mr. President.
In that case, the objection cannot be entertained.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia on the grounds that the electoral votes were
No
not...
debate. No debate.
I object to the certificate from the state of...
And it's called a felony. You see, they're committing felonies according to their own standards. They're committing felonies. That's a felony. According to Georgia, that's a felony.
The United States Code prohibits debate.
I object.
That's a felony.
Of the electoral votes of
Yeah, I'm watching it. That's a felony.
To the certificate from the state of Alabama.
That's a felony.
Lawfully certified.
To the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina.
A felony.
Voter suppression in the closing of voting.
That's a felony.
There's no debate. There's no...
She's committing a felony according to the laws in Georgia. She said that's a RICO violation.
I have an objection to the electoral votes.
The objection is in writing, and I don't care that it is not.
Oh, that's an old one, but a RICO violation.
I wish to ask, is there one United States...
Holy shit, man, that face could cure cancer. But felony.
Is signed by a member
Holy
of the
shit,
House,
that face ain't no
signed
better,
by a
but
member of the
felony.
It is over.
And when the House managers realized that the president's actual words could not have incited the riot, as you alleged in your article of impeachment, you attempted to pivot. You said that raising the issue of election security and casting doubt on the propriety of our elections was dangerous. One of the House managers, Mr. Cicilline, told you that this is not about the words Mr. Trump used in isolation. Rather, it is about the big lie, the claim that the election was stolen. The House managers told you that it's the big lie that incited the riot, and that the big lie was President Trump's claim that the election was not a fair election, or that the election was stolen.
81 million votes.
Stolen, you were told.
But they had to turn off the dislikes on the White House YouTube channel.
Claiming the election was stolen.
He should have at least 81 million, thumbs up, right?
Because he or she knows, or should know, that such a claim and such words can actually incite violent insurrection, you were told. Well, it seems that the House manager's position must be actually a bit narrower than that. The House manager's position really is that when Republican candidates for office claim an election is stolen, or that the winner is illegitimate,
according to the loony left, they're committing felonies.
Should know it.
According to the charges against Trump,
Party candidates for public elective office are perfectly
they're
entitled
committing
to claim
felonies.
the election was stolen, or that the winner is illegitimate, or to make any other outrageous claim they can. It is their absolute right
Anybody
to do so.
hear anything different from what they said earlier?
So, irrespective of whether there's any evidence to support the claim, Democratic candidates can claim that an election was stolen because of Russian collusion, or without any explanation at all. And that is perfectly okay, and is in no way incitement to an insurrection. And somehow, when Democratic candidates publicly decry an election as stolen or illegitimate, it's never a big lie. You've been doing it for years.
But can you imagine telling your supporters that the only way you could possibly lose is if an American election was rigged and stolen from you?
But you had to turn off
And ask
dislikes
yourself
on YouTube.
Whether you've ever seen anyone at any level of government make the same claim about their own election.
If Stacey Abrams doesn't win in Georgia, they stole it. It's clear. It's clear.
Felony.
I say that publicly.
Felony.
It's clear.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
Felony.
Illegitimate president.
Felony.
He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons
Felony.
why the election turned out the way it did.
Votes remain to be counted. There are voices that were waiting to be heard.
Felony.
Will not concede.
And I respect where you're coming from, and I respect the issues that you're raising. You're not answering the question. Do you think it was
felony?
The word legitimate.
There are still legitimate concerns over the integrity of our elections and of ensuring the principle of one person, one vote.
It's called voter ID, you fucking...
Americans who are very worried that when they cast the ballot on an electronic voting machine, that there is no paper trail to record that vote.
Felony.
But constantly shifting vote tallies in Ohio and malfunctioning electronic machines which may not have paper receipts have led to additional loss of confidence by the public.
Felony.
This is their only opportunity to have this debate while the country is listening, and it is appropriate to do so.
House Manager Castro no longer has to try to imagine it, thanks to the distinguished senator and others. It didn't have to be this way. The Democrats promised unity. They promised to deliver the very COVID relief in the form of $2,000 stimulus checks that President Trump called for. They should have listened to their own words of the past. I leave you with the wise words of Congressman Jerry Nadler.
The effect of impeachment is to overturn the popular will of the voters. We must not overturn an election and remove a president from office, except to defend our system of government or our constitutional liberties against a dire threat. And we must not do so without an overwhelming consensus of the American people. There must never be a narrowly voted impeachment or an impeachment supported by one of our major political parties and opposed by the other. Such an impeachment will produce the divisiveness and bitterness in our politics for years to come, and will call into question the very legitimacy of our political institutions. The American people have heard the allegations against the president, and they overwhelmingly oppose.
Well, how long has that guy been in fucking
they
politics?
President Clinton.
Oh, wait a minute.
Him.
They live there.
To overturn the considered judgment of the American people. Mr. Speaker, the case against the president has not been made. There is far from sufficient evidence to support
Choking on a chicken wing, I think.
And the allegations, even if proven true, do not rise to the level of impeachable offenses. Mr. Speaker, this is clearly a partisan railroad job. The same people who today tell us we must impeach the president for lying under oath, almost to a person voted last year to re-elect the speaker who had just admitted lying to Congress in an official proceeding. The American people are watching, and they will not forget. You may have the votes, you may have the muscle, but you do not have the legitimacy.
So they all committed felonies. According to Georgia, they all committed fucking felonies.
Will go down in infamy in the history of this nation.
So,
thank you, Mr. Speaker.
arrest them.
Balance of my time.
Right now, I want the Sergeant of Arms in Congress to go and arrest these fuckers. Right now. That's what the Sergeant at Arms' job is, to arrest members of Congress for committing crimes. So we have the evidence right on it's video. We have probable cause. Need to arrest them because they've established precedents. Trump said the election was stolen, and they're charging him with a felony. So they all committed a felony. Is there a statute of limitations? I don't think there are on federal crimes. I don't know. But, Grumpy sent me something. I'll do it right on air here. Let's see what we got. Let me see. I got to... I actually wish people would call in on Skype so we could have conversations, but I would actually love a loony leftist to do it. That would be awesome. But I like his messages because they're like, there you go. This is where they call him a racist. Well, we'll watch it. We're going to watch it because I'm going to grab a beer for this one. Maybe I'll make some popcorn too. Here we go.
I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's 6:05. I appreciate everyone who's joined us here tonight. Welcome to the chambers of the County Legislature.
I know.
And at this point, I'm going to pass it off to our clerk for roll call.
Tucker Whitman. Tucker Whitman.
Here.
Andy Dennison.
Here.
Ben Vitale.
Here.
Chris Petras.
Present.
Paul Pinckney.
Here.
Keith Batman.
Here.
Hans Kutcher. Hans Kutcher.
Yeah, you can see
Charlie
stuff.
Ripley,
Present.
Heidi Nightingale,
Present.
Elaine Daly,
Yes, fake racism.
Tricia Kerr,
Here.
Timothy Lattimore,
Here.
Michael Didio,
Here.
Brian Foley,
Present.
Aileen McNabb Coleman.
Present.
I
Please
just
stand for
told
the Pledge of Allegiance.
Grumpy that you're all watching it right now. His moment of prayer. Oh my God. At least you still do that. I'm actually happy about that.
Please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, microphones are off.
They are off. Just said it would backbeat.
They are because the speakers will feed back into the 8x8 and it'll create some feedback.
At this time, we have a specific order of business for Health and Human Services resolution. We're going to do that first before we enter into the public to be heard. So if I could have Elaine Daly offer that resolution.
Yes, I'd like to offer the resolution on the agenda tonight. This came about, started on Friday, and I did send the draft out yesterday with some background. And basically, if this resolution passes tonight, it would authorize the health department to bring on up to 7 registered professional nurses to be brought on in a part-time and actually temporary capacity, specific to meet the obligations of the department to work on COVID-related work. These individuals would be brought in and paid on an hourly basis, primarily responsible for the testing clinics and being trained for contact tracing. And there was an initial thought that perhaps we should send these registered nurses to a nursing agency and contract with that agency for that service.
Bring up
But
chat.
that didn't materialize. So in order to
I'm not a nice person.
on payroll and to use them for this purpose, then we're asking to create these 7 registered professional nurses. There is, as explained by Kathleen Cuddy, targeted money in their preparedness grant from the state. It can only be spent on COVID-related expenses. And as you see in the resolution, that money will be tracked and no further expenditure will be made.
Yeah, trash the racist guy.
Back and gets further authorization. So with that, I'm asking for a
Fuck
motion
Biden.
to allow the health department to create and fill up to 7 part-time registered nurses to assist in the COVID-related work.
Whitman will move it.
Fuck Biden. There, I trashed the racist guy.
Okay, discussion on this.
If you ain't black, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
Hearing none.
Really?
All in favor?
I didn't vote for you, and I ain't black.
Carried. Thank you very much, Legislator Daly. Okay, at this point of our meeting, we're going to enter into the public to be heard phase. I'm going to be.
Don't you normally do that at the end?
I'm going to also access the sign-in sheet. But I'm also going to call on legislators who have asked to be called on, who have invited speakers themselves. Please approach the podium here. If you would state your name and your address. And we have a policy of a 3-minute time frame in order to relay your message. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, because they
needed
the voices.
We will, our deputy clerk will
I believe what I heard you quoting
so at this time,
in
I'd
the
like to
video that
call
they said
on,
was racist
Legislator
was
Nightingale.
statistics.
Thank you. Before
Fuck, math is racist.
To speak to be heard, I have a statement myself that I'd like to read to the community and my legislative colleagues.
Did you know I'm racist too?
As the first-time legislator
Don't tell my wife.
of District 10, representing the northwest quadrant of the city of Auburn, as well as all of Cuba
Or
County
most of
as a
Brazil.
whole, I am denouncing the published words of my legislative colleague, Andy Dennison. His words clearly identify his lack of critical thinking, ability to research or understand research validity, and his ability to lead effectively as becoming of the heavily responsible position of an elected official. Particularly concerning to me in Legislator Dennison's letter and follow-up interview in the Citizens newspaper is the clear indication of his implicit bias of people of color while stating he's not a racist.
Literally, they're using CRT buzzwords. Implicit bias.
Dennison, we do have a legal mechanism to remove him as chair of the Judicial and Public Safety Committee. I call upon my colleagues to complete that action. While words and public statements from me and others are important, actions are the true basis for forward movement around social justice issues. Even if I
social justice, another CRT buzzword.
In this chairmanship, I call upon this action as it is my duty, the duty I took on January 7th when I took my oath of office. Further, I propose this to the legislature. Develop, implement, promote, and enforce anti-racism strategies, policies, procedures within the entirety of this municipal organization. Examine equity as a systemic and structural level, such as auditing
systemic, another CRT buzzword.
Operations, planning, policy and program development, and procedures and practices with respect to employment, service delivery, and contracting, as well as organizational culture, while taking steps to eliminate barriers in a way that ensures measures of progress. And finally, educate and sensitize elected officials and civil servants on mutual respect, citizenship, and the obligation to protect and promote human rights and social justice.
Social justice again.
But particularly for our tax-paying citizens of color. So at this
I wonder how many CRT classes she's been through.
Heard is Mr. Lucian Lombardo.
How can you say you're a CRT indoctrinated drone without saying you're a CRT indoctrinated drone?
Lucian Lombardo, and can you hear me? And I live at 61 Pine Street in Auburn. I'm here speaking to you because the words of one member of this legislature are trying to undo, or at least make more difficult, the work of making Yuba County and Auburn a fairer, more peaceful place for all of its citizens, to grow, love, live, and work. Now, how can mere words do that? They do it by reinforcing prejudice, pandering to historical stereotypes and images, humiliating groups of people, attempting to prevent the empowerment of marginalized people.
There's another CRT buzzword.
It never was, and ignoring the reality of that past and its manifestations in the present.
Well, I'm going to guess this guy probably has a college
also
degree.
pitting groups of people against one another, not supporting but violating Black and brown people's inherent human dignity. Such words as were written by Mr. Dennison add to the social toxicity of the world.
Another CRT buzzword.
And particularly this legislature that those words represent.
I've done a lot of classes and a lot of reading on CRT.
We as adults in our community create for our children. I returned to Auburn in Cuba County 7 years ago when I retired after nearly 40 years in Virginia. Before I went to Virginia, I worked as a teacher in Auburn.
There you go.
Facilities in the late 1960s and early 1970s. And of all places, in prison, I learned the importance of working hard to understand people in circumstances that were different from mine.
But even if you did, Grumpy, you're probably right.
In a small town, central New York. And my students were primarily Black.
I'm doing good. Just listening to a bunch of CRT indoctrinated drones.
If I were going to be an effective teacher, I needed to understand the world from which my students came. Central to my learning was the importance of respecting the experience of the men I taught. Not calling them names, not resorting to stereotypes, not believing the stereotypes, as a means of understanding understanding their complaints, trying to find ways of empowering them in an institution and a world so often structured to disempower and humiliate them because of their race and ethnicity. From my perspective, this meant supporting, not violating their human dignity. This meant using my privilege and power to help empower them with what I could teach.
Another CRT buzzword.
People. When I returned to Auburn after 40 years,
it's like Ibram Kendi jacked off on his face.
On Harriet Tubman that the community was held at the community college. I saw the diverse programming at the Auburn Public Theater. I got involved with the Celebrate the First Auburn, the Harriet Tubman Center for Justice and Peace, the Southern Cuba Anne Frank Street Project, and provided programs for the Cuba County Museum. I saw that Auburn and community in Cuba County were proactively working to educate themselves, to recognize and build support.
Proactive, another CRT buzzword.
Regardless of color, ethnicity, sexual orientation, economic position.
Thank you, Mr. Lembetter.
It's like they literally have the textbook in front of them, or have the Ibram Kendi whispering in her ear. So it's going to be Marxist after Marxist getting up there.
Makes its way to the podium. I just want to remind the legislature and the public, during this public to be heard, we offer the time for the public to speak, and we cannot ask questions or get into discussion in case anyone is unfamiliar with that process. Thank you.
So I come to you, Brian Moss, over here, Madison.
They're actually using just CRT buzzwords the whole time.
I didn't prepare for it, so I'll just tell you how those comments made me and many people like me feel.
Feel. There you go. The feel.
As this gentleman made these statements, what was alarming to me was he failed to see the progress he had in his own community. Auburn was nationally recognized for having peaceful protests. And did it dawn on them that we're not...
Was that when they were having the mostly peaceful protests?
Protests that were happening as well.
You know, when the Democrat Party lost their fucking mind and started burning shit down?
He spewed the hate that makes us feel as if there's got to be more conversation with the right people. And it also made me look at my legislative body and want to hold them accountable for his actions, because your silence is strong. So if you're not opposing his comments, then basically I believe that you believe in those comments. And all this work and all these talks we've had with the city and the mayor and the police department and the sheriff who gave them their time to try to learn and develop would be a waste to have our legislative body making comments like that. And that's how I felt. The other part of it made me research who I was talking about. Like this gentleman, I researched him, and this
is called a populist bomb. Remember, I played it back.
He's willing to say, what is he saying behind closed doors? And I think many of you that know him personally know the man he is. This is not like somebody that went rogue or spoke that was, that got taken out of context.
I don't actually believe Grumpy actually was talking different before he was elected.
Side by side.
I think he was elected based on who he already was.
And if you know that, and you're quiet, you don't ask for more, shame on you. Because not only would you lose my respect, you lost something way more valuable than you lost my vote.
I am still live and the mic's open.
Thank you, Mr. Lavelle.
I would now like to call Ms. Dia Carbajal to speak. My name is Dia Carbajal. I live at 116 Curtis Place in Auburn, New York.
Now you know I live in Brazil. I don't
The
have those
problem
problems.
with power is how to achieve its responsible use
Taxation
rather
is
than
the
its
problem.
irresponsible
It's not
and
the government
indulgent
in your
use
face every day.
of how to get men of power to live for the public rather than live off the public. These are the words of Robert Kennedy, and they fit our moment.
Do you even get paid?
It is not a question of whether or not legislator Dennison's remarks were racist. They were. It is not a question of whether his letter was incendiary and hateful. It was. It is not a question of whether or not his penned thoughts were ignorant and misinformed. They were. It is a question of what actions are we going to take to address an irresponsible and indulgent man of power.
Wasn't it about all
when an
the
elected
rioting and shit?
Speaks to any issue, they can never take off their city council hat, or their board of education hat, or their assemblyman hat. Their words and actions hold great power and authority.
The Democrat Party is the oldest, the largest, the most successful hate group in American history.
They speak with the authority of that entire body. When an elected official speaks or writes a letter to the editor without explicitly stating that it is their own opinion, it is assumed that they do speak for the entire legislative body.
I'm still trying to figure out.
It's a huge responsibility.
What does it take to piss you Americans off to put a bullet in someone's head?
Or abused.
They're grooming and chemically castrating your children in schools.
In our local newspaper, the word
Why don't I see people hanging from telephone poles with a sign that says I'm a fucking pedophile?
Think about it. Because therein lies Mr. Dennison's transgression, the betrayal of the trust of this legislature and the people of Cayuga County.
Yeah, she pretty much sounds like a lunatic.
We need to encourage responsible use of authority and curb the hate that his deliberate words have conjured. Cayuga County is the home and final resting place of Harriet Tubman. Her statue is placed in front of the Equal Rights Heritage Center to guide our way. We are challenged to walk in her light every day. It is an awesome responsibility, and we may fall short. But we cannot simply stand in front of her statue for a photo op.
Now remember, I had another.
In her memory.
The picture's really small, but I can see she's white as a fucking ghost.
We need to
remember the black guy I played earlier. That I was playing earlier. My new hero, by the way. I think the guy's fucking intelligent. And this white snowflake here is lecturing you on being a racist.
And I ask for his resignation as he no longer holds the public trust. Not here, not in Harriet's hometown.
See, that's why I couldn't be a legislator, because I just stand there and go, why don't you just suck my dick?
I now would like to invite Ms. Rhoda Overstreet to speak.
I'm not Mr. Congeniality. I don't have white guilt. I'm not guilty of anything. Well, I'm guilty of stuff, but I'm personally. Sean's guilty of stuff.
My name is Rhoda
Not
Overstreet
white
Wilson,
Sean, just
and
Sean.
I am a lifelong resident of Auburn. Thank you for your time this evening.
Doesn't matter what
When
my color
someone
is.
shows
Sean's
you
done
who
some
they are,
shit.
believe them the first time.
That's what they don't get. I'm not a.
Andy
We're not
Dennison's
arresting.
editorial comments were racially tone deaf and decisive.
There you go.
in
CRT buzzword. Tone
divisive
deaf.
in nature. He chose to use
You notice
his
they never
platform as a
mention
key
colorblind
legislator
ever.
to become a protagonist for the alt-right sound bites
Alt-right,
and debunk
another buzzword.
discriminatory statistical jargon because he could. He was operating within his white privilege.
This is
He
live,
felt
by
no
the way.
fear or angst.
We're all talking.
When he so eloquently recited his non-substantiated
So these fuckers are going to be famous in Brazil and the U.S. So they're going to be fucking idiots on two continents.
A second letter, when it was obviously clear that the citizens of Cayuga
Cercado
County
por
found it to
malditos
be
idiotas.
offensive and demanded action. Ignorance, allied
Which
with
means
power,
surrounded by fucking
is the
idiots.
most ferocious enemy justice can have. James Baldwin. Andrew Dennison has positioned himself through his words and deeds to be an enemy to social justice. And that
There you go,
places
another
my
buzzword.
family and all other black and brown people in Cayuga County in harm's way.
What harm's way are they talking about?
Please hear
Is
me.
she in fucking Israel or something?
This body here is here to advocate for you, but you all need to know silence is a permission giver. Any real change requires a deep understanding that what we all know to be normal will end. This moment demands
Would be me asking her how many times her kids have been in jail
when it is
be
not
racist?
popular, but it is the right thing to do. Cayuga County Legislature, what will be your...
Isn't Rochester in your county?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to invite Nina Rickett.
Yeah, they don't really know enemies when they see them. Words hurt. Well, guess what?
Hello, my name is
A reverse punch hurts too.
My address is 413 Fire Lane 29, Moravian, New York. I will be ceding my time to Heidi's next guest speaker.
We're making fun of loony leftists. My wife's wondering what we're listening
invite
to.
Amanda Jane Peltier.
Pessoas chamar grumpy racismo.
No, it's not.
No shit, but ouvir pessoas.
My name is Amanda Peltier. I live at 122 Chapter. I am a homeschooling instructor entering my 9th year of teaching. I'm also a coordinator at the Auburn Hunger Task Force.
Why am I bleeding?
Where our mission statement is to seek to provide sustenance, community, and dignity.
I know there's a big
to
city in
families
Cayuga
suffering
County
from
somewhere.
food insecurity in and around the city of Auburn. Protecting human dignity should be a mission for all public servants. It is the duty of each member of the Cayuga County Legislature to ensure
You should
that
run
you
again
are
just to
protecting
piss them
human
off.
dignity in all
Shit,
forms.
can I send
You
in a
are
vote?
Your position and your voice. While I'm talking, video is on his phone instead of listening. It is also your personal duty to check your peers
there you go.
when one member of the
Syracuse.
legislature shows an inadequate sense of empathy for others who seek basic human
So
rights.
some of these people are probably coming from
Andrew
Syracuse where
Dennison's letter to
their kids have been
citizens
incarcerated
out
at
of
least
touch
3 to 4
tirade
times.
against the Black Lives Matter movement. He used the
Black
phrase
Lives, you mean
Black
build-
on Black
build
violence
bigger
with
mansions?
an intention to undermine the movement. This is a non-term. It does not exist.
Does she feel
Violence against
stupid
another
now?
individual is simply
Yeah,
called
that's Onondaga.
violence and is dealt with
I
accordingly
know there's
by
a
our
city in
justice
Cayuga, or at least a couple.
Dennison's use of this phrase is intended to turn people of color into a lump conglomerate, a group of others to be feared, hated, and reprimanded. Although he claims not to be racist, this is a racial tactic. I hope that Andrew Dennison will learn from the strong public reaction to his words, and that he will choose
Buffalo
to
is
take
a shithole
responsibility
too.
for the mistake he has made.
Well, parts of it.
I tell my students that everyone makes mistakes.
I did a wrestling show
Learning
up
comes
there.
from making mistakes. But it's how we react to our own mistakes that shows our character and our flexibility to learn. 2 weeks
Yeah,
ago,
burning
my
shit
11-year-old
down is
son
not a
Patrick
sign of
read an
character,
article in
bitch.
Citizen to which he had a passionate response.
They're
He drafted
terrorists.
a letter to the editor which included some
If you're
text
burning
and
shit
points,
down, you're a
but
terrorist.
in his emotional
You should be
state,
treated
on
like a
June
terrorist.
11, he used
They
the
should
term
call me,
stupid when referring
and I'll come
to
treat you
certain
like a
groups
terrorist.
against another.
I used to shoot terrorists.
Well, we
A
read
lot.
over his first draft together. We discussed
I hate
the
fucking
importance
terrorists.
of clarifying our words through expressive vocabulary and strong
Oh,
writing
Auburn.
skills
Yeah, that's
without
the
resorting
city I
to
was
name
thinking of.
calling.
Harriet
I
Tubman
wish Mr. Dennison had been present for that lesson.
popped into my head.
Mr. Dennison's final draft to the Citizen was full of exclamation points, structured as an unprofessional rant, and repeatedly called protesters and supporters of the movement idiots.
An unprofessional rant. You mean like this
Mr. Dennison
4-minute
is
fucking
not
rant
11
you're
years
on,
old, and I
bitch?
expect more from my legislators than from my own students. The immaturity, insensitivity, and unprofessionalism of this letter was all the more startling and disappointing. No, Nina yielded to me, so I have much to say.
The immaturity, insensitivity, and unprofessionalism of this letter was all the more startling and disappointing when concluded with the following postscript. Andrew Dennison is the Cayuga County Legislator Representative for District 2. That line indicates an intense failure from all of us here today. I have failed, and all voting residents of the City of Auburn have failed by electing an individual to the legislature who possesses an underdeveloped sense of social justice and respect for human beings.
There's that buzzword again. Fuck your social justice. Your social justice gets people killed.
And I invite you to join me.
How about just fucking justice?
His words and language have been unprofessional and unbecoming of the office. Many people came out today to discuss Andrew Dennison's words, but I would like to address my next statement to Michael Didio. You're next. The community is watching you in this moment. Everyone in the city saw how you conducted your campaign against Gwen, how you and your wife knocked on our doors and referred to her as that colored gal. Polite racism is sometimes hard to recognize in the moment, but your words stuck in my mind and made me and many of my neighbors
That's because it wasn't racist, it was the
A
truth.
few brief words gave us a window into something we did not expect to see.
If I remember correctly, the letter was about the riots,
Gwen,
the mostly peaceful protest
now learned from Andrew Dennison's
that should have been met with lethal force. Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 loony leftists from out of
I
town.
would like to call
He shot a
Melody
convicted
Johnson.
child molester, he shot a convicted wife beater, and he shot a guy who was out on bail for weapons charges who pulled a pistol. Be like fucking Kyle. Yeah, please. It's going to be a long one tonight, but we got into this, and now I'm kind of fired up again.
My name is
Fucking
Melody
retards.
Johnson. I reside at 2701 Van Buren
Glad I
Street.
live out of the country, so I can fucking say this shit.
I came tonight to add my voice. And there are certainly those here who are more knowledgeable than me.
No, not really. No, not from what I've heard.
Eloquently than I can. They can speak from a place of greater roots in this city, in this community, and this county. Yet, as a transplant from New York City,
y'all,
a property owner in Auburn, and a businesswoman in Cayuga County, a tax-paying, socially active, politically aware.
Oh, there you go. Socially active. There you go. There's that buzzwords again.
I find myself standing here and asking for your ear. See, my mom and my God taught me that I'm to make good use of my time. So I respectfully ask for each of yours, both your ears, your hearts, your authority, your
You
mind.
sound like they've all read the Ibram Kendi book on fucking
Two
CRT.
very simple questions. And I'd like to offer two
Karl
very
Marx.
simple answers. In fact, I'd like to quote Mr. Dennison's amazingly racist, blatantly divisive, and dishonorable
Let's hear the racist part.
letter.
She's gonna quote the. She's gonna quote it now.
He asked how. Most of these idiots don't even know anything about the statues they're tearing down.
Exactly.
And try and erase the past or learn from it. I also ask you, where's
Oh my God! This horrible.
at all levels?
A bunch of fucking Democrats tearing down statues of Democrats because wait for it, they're fucking racist.
And in the spirit of the shed blood of my enslaved ancestors, and in the stolen breath of my murdered brothers and sisters in this country, I'd like to offer you these answers. One,
She doesn't sound
you,
old
the
enough.
auspicious body of the legislature of Cayuga County, have taken an oath. And by definition,
So she's
it is your
upset that
responsibility
they're tearing down
as
statues
an
of
elected
Democrats
body
because
that you're responsible for the public health.
the Democrats are upset because they're tearing down statues of Democrats
You are also
because they're racist.
to provide
And,
efficient and
Andy
effective,
pointed it
reliable
out.
resources to enhance the health and safety and the quality of lives in Cayuga County.
How about reading a fucking
How do
book,
you
you
do
dumb
that?
bitch?
When you're sitting,
You probably wouldn't be voting
armed,
fucking Democrat. That's why they're bringing out CRT.
with a
If they
blatant
taught history, actually how it fucking happened,
That's who he is.
Democrats come off looking like
So I
world-class
say I demand
assholes.
removal of him from every position that gives him the power to incite divisiveness, embolden hate, and to spew racism. Pull up and show up and vote right.
Calling out stupid is not racism. That's called calling out
I
stupid.
would like to invite Mr. Elijah Hernandez.
Hernandez. Yeah, it sounds like he's gonna know Spanish. And what does tearing down statues have to do with Mexicans, unless it's, Santa Ana? Maybe he's on your side. But normally they vote Democrat, so I'm just.
Good evening.
If I'd known about this, we would have done this earlier with you on Skype.
I'm the president of the NAACP.
All right, he's fucked already. Worthless organization. Started by the Republicans, by the way.
I could stand here today and talk to you about everything my brothers and sisters have come up and talked to you about already. But I'm not. I'm not going to call them a racist. I'm not going to say misguided.
The fact that the Democrats are staring down statues
I'm not going to do that.
of
I'm going to stand
Democrats.
here right now, and I'm going to say to you what your colleagues are saying. Republican, Assemblyman Gary Finch, first one to step up to the plate and say he should resign. We can do this without him. Number one. Number two, New York State Senator Rachel May stands up and says we can do it without him. He should resign. 24th District Congressional candidate Dana Bolter responds. Candidate for
Here, you want to hear
New York
something
State
racist?
Senate
The second
130th,
largest
Scott
prison
Clemens,
population
tells him
in
to
the United
resign.
States are
Roger Mitchell
Hispanics.
not only promises
No.
and tells us
First
to
are whites,
resign,
so they be
but
third.
says I am willing and ready to take over because I live in the same district. But yet, today was when I first got information from the Democratic caucus here denouncing his acts. Tim Lattimore, I've seen you so many times at the Freedom Fund backer for the NAACP. You talk about being in our black homes, being in the kitchen. I expected you to stand up and say this is wrong. If anyone in here, I expected you. Still not too late. Via Carvajal, candidate for the 126th District Assembly District, stepped up and responded.
So your comment were about the
5th District Councilor,
the summer of love.
Joseph Holland.
So I guess looting and burning down fucking buildings
for Governor Pataki responded today.
is
Jimmy Giantino, City Councilor.
Social
Kevin McCormick,
justice?
City Councilor. And now the Democratic caucus.
I know he's fucking fat.
The message that you have given our children is that you allow any elected official to say what they want to say and do what they want to do.
Yeah, it's called the
Is
First
that
Amendment,
what
you
you're gonna stand
dickhead. Yeah,
You see,
pretty much.
I'm a politician. Thank you. I sit on the school board. I get the politics.
And that's why our kids can't fucking read cursive or read a fucking clock, you fat fuck.
Someone called black folks idiots, call their own people that elected them names. You can stop and I'll stop in a second. Then you have to take action because I take action. I will take action as Eli Hernandez. I expect you to take action.
What are you going to do,
as
burn
who
something
you
down?
are. I sent you
That's
all
what
an
you
email. I
Democrats
said,
do.
it's
You going to
time
burn
for you
something
do
down?
two things. Stand up individually and stand up together.
You better hope you don't get caught because I know you can't fucking run, you fat fuck.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
I invite Mr. Joseph Wheelbrand.
Wish I'd known about this sooner. I'd have fucking had this on the show and just fucking torn it apart. So many CRT fucking buzzwords. Holy shit. It's like they read the fucking book.
161 East
Or they're quoting it. Are they plagiarizing Kendi?
For the city of Auburn, we hear complaints from many, many people all year long. And we deal with that with the police, businesses, you name it.
Yeah, Greta Thunberg supports the fucking terrorists. So
We do a lot of good work.
remember what I said about putting a bullet in a fucking terrorist head?
So I'm not
Hey
doing
Greta,
politics.
I don't live in American jurisdiction. Someone should shoot you in the fucking head. You terrorist cunt.
2 Korean children. Luckily, they graduated from the high school. And
What
are
do
now
Koreans have to
doing
do
very
with?
well outside the area.
Were Koreans burning down fucking neighborhoods? No, they generally don't.
For inviting me here tonight to Heidi. Each
On a fucking lie, by the way.
swears an oath of office with the county judge administering the oath. I saw a picture of Mr. Dennison with his hand up with Judge Vandrich and Sue Dwyer. He did the oath of office. I received a copy of the oath of office from the Cuyahoga County Clerk's office today. He had to sign it. He must have had to go sign the oath book.
As a matter of fact, the Asians actually do better than white Americans.
And signed his name to it.
So it's not fucking race, comma.
You've all sworn, every one of the
It's fucking,
solemnly sworn to support the
if you don't believe the fucking loony left's victimhood fucking bullshit and get on their
The U.S.
plantation.
Constitution and New York Constitution is colorblind, since the concept of race does not exist in either of them. Then there was the constitutional amendments for many more things and voting rights for everyone, including blacks and women.
Yeah, voting rights.
14th
Doesn't mean
Amendment
you don't need an
also
ID.
equal
You
rights
shouldn't need an
protection
ID.
laws for everybody. A county ethics board of this committee, in this county, in this legislature, should review ethics violations of their own colleagues, as in the New York State Constitution. Removal or sanctions of an elected official could be done.
Yeah, that's
by the
their
governor
only
of New
thing they
York
have is
State,
race.
Who has that power. I was told you can't censure him, you can't ask him to resign, but Andrew Dennison could certainly be removed by the governor. I wrote to the governor 4 times now.
There you
Still
go.
waiting for a
Simple.
response. To ask him.
Still waiting for my
Mr.
white
Dennison.
privilege to hit, though. That would be nice. I mean, you know,
think there
busting
is
my
a
ass for
legislator among
23
our
years,
ranks
and,
in
you know,
Dennison, who has
it'd
violated
be great
the
if
US
that
and New York
that privilege would hit. That way,
Constitution
a little something on top. You know what I
ask that you
mean?
meet either in public, this legislative body, or in executive session, and discuss and decide what to do with this Mr. Dennison, who has violated board ethics that you are elected to uphold. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lieberman.
He sounds from New York City too. What do they do? Import fucking loony leftists from the city because they don't have enough? It's almost like the border of New York State's open too. Yeah, that's what they say, Adam. But yeah, I didn't get that white privilege card. I guess
Opportunity to
I
speak.
got more money in my
I'm
check
Dave
though,
Colvin,
but I didn't get the
former
white
resident
privilege
and
card.
Taxpayer of Cuyahoga County. And I'm
I got less
deeply
gas
troubled by the
prices,
toxic
but
nature of
didn't get
Mr.
that
Dennison's
card.
view. While this legislative body doesn't directly represent me at present, it reflects me, particularly.
Well, if it doesn't represent you, you shouldn't be allowed to speak.
All-white membership. The spotlight
Okay,
is
we got
on
the CRT
you.
trigger words going again.
What will you do?
Waiting for the word
This moment of
diversity.
historic reckoning taking place in so many communities across the United States provides an opportunity for the Cuyahoga County Legislature, here in this chosen home and resting place of Harriet Tubman, to stand tall and lead.
Harriet Tubman, who
Your
freed
actions
slaves just like
would
the
speak
Republicans.
volumes. If you took strong action,
Got it.
It would speak volumes. You could lead in New York. You could set an example in the country by formally denouncing Mr. Dennison's statement and the centuries
Hey,
of
later,
cultural
bud.
and institutional racism that it springs from.
Oh, there you go, CRT, institutional. He didn't say systemic, though.
I
He said
encourage you as a
institutional.
legislative body to help change the course of this nation's history, which is happening now, all around us, to join the voices of millions of protesters around the world and to pass a
Oh
resolution.
yeah, it is where she lived.
Supporting.
I've been by the house because the
statement would acknowledge.
But he doesn't know history because Republicans freed the slaves.
Continues to this day. Such a statement would acknowledge the 400-year history of oppression that blacks have endured on this continent, from slavery to lynchings.
All by Democrats. All by Democrats. All by Democrats. All by Democrats.
Economic and housing discrimination.
All by Democrats.
Judicial killings, to the cultivated fear of whites and the overreaction of police. At this historic juncture, I hope your better angels inspire you to take a bold stance for the good of Cayuga County and these United States and pass a resolution stating that Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
You mean buy large mansions? Is that what he means? Buy large mansions? That's what I heard.
I would now like to invite Dr. William Berry.
Oh my God, he's got doctor in front of his name. Holy shit. I'm not gonna, because guess what? Fossey has the word doctor in front of his name too. Fuck you all. Let me guess, he's not a real medical doctor. He's a doctorate in what, philosophy or gender studies maybe.
My name is Bill Berry. I live at 77 South Street. At critical times, usually not expected.
Exactly, that's the way it should be. And that's racism in 2023. What do you mean you're going to treat me like everyone else?
But its occurrence always defines
I don't want to be racist. You
what a
fucking
community
racist prick.
stands for, what a community believes in, what a community values, and how it articulates the human dignity for all members of that community.
Holy shit, man, these CRT buzzwords are just flying
and
in.
this elected legislative body.
Did they actually
now
carry
at
a book?
moment
Because
thrust upon
Kendi's
you
written a
through
few
the
books.
fault
They're
of one of your own
gibberish and
members.
bullshit, but
As we approach the conflicting thinking of what July 14th.
oh, there you go, conflicting thinking, CRT buzzwords.
Racial pandemics. As a
Racial pandemics, CRT buzzwords.
Internalize and fully
Internalize,
embrace
CRT buzzword.
contributions made by a race of people who look like me. You need to understand and be knowledgeable about.
Does
the
anybody there
historical
not
legacy
have a
of
New York
people
City
who look
accent?
Like me. People who were systematically denied basic American rights. We are a people who were forced to contribute to the welfare, privilege, and protection of your ancestors.
Privilege, CRT,
you and your
buzzword.
family's pursuit of life, liberty, freedom, and happiness.
Was he ever a fucking
Now,
slave?
There's a member of this legislative body who has squandered and debased the liberating spirit of Juneteenth as well as this Saturday's Independence Day. Legislators, you can change that profound negativity and send a strong signal to all residents what this body will not tolerate, condone, or embrace. Your silence.
Yeah, we shouldn't embrace,
or less than forceful
CRT in our
condemnation
schools
of your
because
colleague will also send a strong signal to this community, especially
no, but everyone up there so far has a New York
The
accent.
actions of
From
one of your
that
members
lady
who are
on
not in having to
has had a
decide
New York
between
City
voting
accent.
and
I know that
voting
accent
by a
because I can
colleague
copy it
who
because I
publicly
spent all that
stated
time in New York
his
City during
racist
9/11.
ideas,
I'm from Brooklyn.
or it is your duty
My
to
dogs are
represent
killing
the
me.
best interest, hopes, aspirations of everyone
How the fuck
who
you
calls
doing,
Cayuga
huh?
County home.
My dogs are killing
Do
me.
not get caught up in misrepresentations of free speech.
You're fucking racist.
Hateful words, whether spoken or put in writing by any Cayuga County legislature, has the explicit purpose to denigrate, demoralize, and demonize an entire
Holy
segment
shit, he
of
went right through the
Cayuga County
CRT
residents
checklist in like
based
one right
on
after the
their
other.
race. That behavior cannot stand. Your colleague has now positioned this legislative body to take significant action and impose long-standing consequences. As an elected official,
Have you seen any
each of
long-standing
you
consequences?
are held to a higher standard. Your constituents accord you respect based on your position. Just remember, respect is not a one-way street.
Respect is
Conduct
earned,
by
you
your
fuck.
colleague that is undeniable hateful can never be legitimized or accepted by any other elected official who is privileged to sit in a seat in this chamber. Your colleague has endowed
but he has it.
society, and now
Pretty much all but maybe one or two since that lady is at
see
it.
this county progress.
The fuck,
Just
they all
know,
like
a public
travel
or
south.
private apology is no longer enough. That pacifier has been rejected. Now, you must determine how you want to walk.
Hey dude, your alarm went off and like
I trust you will not abandon
Kala
the
poha
success
de
of your
boca,
family,
which means shut
your
the fuck
neighbors,
up.
and embrace the expanding spirit of equity for all residents.
Oh, there you go,
and the
equity,
tenets of
CRT buzzword.
anti-racist behavior
How
that
about
is
equality?
beginning to
If you're a
permeate
fucking
every
idiot,
area of Puget County.
equality means you're
This
not going to have as
watershed
much
is the
because you're a
moment
fucking
for
idiot.
Your profile and courage and commitment to the best interests of the entire community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I now invite Deborah Rose for Lofty Sisters.
How long is this shit? Holy fuck, are these people like? Are you like the only Republican on the whole fucking board?
My name is Deborah Rose Berlotti. I live at 2009 West Genesee Street Road in Aurelius. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I sent, I'm going to read the letter that I sent to all of the legislators on Sunday. As a citizen of Puget County, I wanted to express to each of you my agreement with the Auburn-Puget NAACP's condemnation of legislator Dennison's recent
Holy
letter
fuck,
to
the
the editor of
NAACP
Citizen,
again.
and join them
You
in
people
calling
are
for his
fucking
resignation.
the most racist organization I have ever
As his fellow
seen.
legislators, I ask you to publicly condemn the racist and divisive views presented in the letter and do whatever is in your power as legislators to remove or censure legislator Dennison. At a time when our community and our country are trying to come together across the racial divide, when police and Black Lives Matter activists are marching together, including here in Puget County,
They injured
and
police.
there is a groundswell of support across racial lines to dismantle the systemic racism.
Yeah, there you
that
go,
has continued
CRT.
to oppress
There you go,
people of
every
color
time.
For 400 years.
It is not.
At such a time as this,
It's like they all read
Legislator
Kendi's
Dennison
book.
chooses to promote hatred and division. He displays a complete lack of understanding of ongoing systemic racism and our country's
There you
long
go,
history of
CRT again.
racism. And his language and tone are not befitting of someone holding
Maybe
public As a community,
some night I'll
we're
bring this
trying
up
to
again.
move forward
We'll do a count
to
on
heal
how many
divisions and to promote
CRT
anti-racism
buzzwords
and
they
diversity
use.
initiatives.
I'll have a counter that we can
Legislator
watch.
Dennison seeks to thwart these efforts, the very efforts he should be endorsing and supporting as an elected official.
Yeah, I live in Brazil, dude. I'm sure they tell jokes about the Gringo. Matter of fact, I have one dude who thinks I'm Italian for some reason. That's how I came up with the word super Gringo. I'm such a Gringo that you don't even know
The
what
love of the
how
citizens and community you
what-
have sworn to serve. I ask you to please denounce legislator
Oh yeah,
Dennison's
I
remarks
hear it.
and do what is in your power to rectify the damage he has done. And I will just add, which I didn't have in my original.
One night I want to come up here
That
like
if
with a counter on the side and
can
click
remove the Confederate
my
flag,
mouse every
I
time
think
I hear a
Puget County
CRT
should be able
buzzword
to remove a
and see how
racist
many
legislator.
buzzwords come up.
I invite Mr. Zach.
Might I recommend some Weight Watchers while you're at it? They're Snowflake. I do so love, enjoy being lectured by white people about white privilege. I think I mentioned that earlier in my class. Oh, in my podcast. Oh, by the way, did I say, I hope you fucking terrorists die in a slow, agonizing death in fire where fucking your skin's melting off as fucking, I hear you scream.
And as you may know, I'm running for mayor of Minneapolis next year. And in this letter that I wrote, I apologized for a lot of the racist, homophobic, unconstitutional things that
I don't think anybody's really afraid of gays. We just don't want you telling kids about it.
all of you and come across County Line Road and stand with you all against racism, and in the hopes that you'll return the favor. And come out to Minneapolis.
Yeah, I'll stand against racism. Next time they tried burning down a building, shoot them in the fucking head.
Speaking like this in a public meeting. So thank you.
Yeah, Rhino. So Democrats. That's all you have to say. There's no such thing as a rhino. It's a Democrat. That's all it is. Who didn't register Democrat? That's all it is.
You make mistakes. This letter was not a mistake. Brushing your teeth.
It's a socialist who doesn't know he's a fucking socialist. That's all it is.
Writing a racist letter during the biggest civil rights movement in the history of the world and doubling down on it.
So he's talking about 1965?
You guys really need to speak.
He's talking about the civil rights, largest civil rights movement, 1965. Is that what he's talking about?
I would like to invite.
Or is he just a fucking idiot? Okay, I'm gonna guess fucking idiot. I should have got more beer for this one. Holy fuck, are these people stupid?
What I really want to do.
Also, it wasn't a civil rights march because they said fire the shit. That's called rioting. Martin Luther King, one of my idols, by the way.
I was raised in a Republican family.
Yeah, they're Dems. They're socialists.
College, I was a card-carrying member.
There's no such thing as a rhino. They just didn't register Democrat. They're Democrats.
I was president of the Young Republicans in my college.
Oh, you notice he tries to,
And I've had quite an experience going from there to where I am now. I think I'm probably older than you, Mr. Dennison, wherever you are, but maybe not by much. But I think I know something about where you're feeling, where you're coming from. Back about 91, I was the editor of the paper for about 8 years and didn't think of myself as racist. I worked very hard, I thought.
Now he's going to implicit bias.
And at one point,
Another CRT buzzword. I'm not implicit. I'm not
racist. Not because I agree with it, but because, well, free speech. Mr. Dennison is subject to free speech. We ought to be appreciating that much of it. But it was actually Gwen Weber McLeod back there. She may not even remember this. But we were on a panel together when I was at the Citizen, and she nailed it. Basically, what she told me was the words hurt. And the reason nobody was responding to the racist letters was because they hurt too much. My idealism.
Words hurt.
Equality circles, 5 years of this.
Really? You should join the army, fuckface.
What people of color were experiencing. What they're experiencing is rage. Mr. Dennison, your letter was angry, and I get that. I don't understand.
Yeah, people get angry when you set fire to shit. It's weird how that works.
Where there's any likelihood that anything
it's called fucking terrorism.
Except maybe
I don't like terrorists. I think they all should be killed. But
there is I know that.
Don't call me a racist, call me a racist. I don't give a fuck about the word. Doesn't mean anything anymore. Thanks to fuckheads like you. I need to go put one of him in the toilet.
He would not ever go out into any place, into a rural area, without his brick, because he's a black man. That was surprising. Why? What does that mean? Well, he's afraid for his life. He's a minister. Very honorable guy.
98% of all black people are killed by other black people, you white fucking fuckhead.
What rage is about. The experience of people of color every day is different.
Yeah, every day they're killed by other black people.
I can go day after day, month after month, and get respect. Get people who treat me with human dignity. Every day. In fact, I can't remember the last time that I experienced it.
And he's going to babble on and on. I'm going to go take a piss while this fucking idiot keeps babbling. By the way, you can tell him, if you see him, he's fucking famous in Brazil. He's now a fucking idiot on 2 continents.
Just don't understand rage. Your letter has anger in it. Try to experience, try to understand rage.
And finally, I would like to invite Gwen Weber McLeod to speak.
Since 1793, African Americans have contributed to the well-being and the richness of Cuba County. The first African American woman to come to Cuba County arrived here in 1793. Her name is Kate Freeman. We don't honor her, we don't talk about her. But if you learn her story, what you will learn is that once she was released from her indentured servitude, she became one of the finest citizens this community has ever known. She and her husband bought up lots of property in this area, and they became tax-paying citizens of Cuba County. They created opportunity for generations of young
Took
Black
off my
Americans
Super Gringo hat.
right here in Cuba County to make a difference. And I'm standing here on her legacy today. My name is Gwen Weber McLeod, and I am the president and CEO of Gwen, a Cuba County resident, a Black taxpayer, both personally and I own a
How about just taxpayer? No one gives a fuck about your color.
candidate. I'm a wife, mother, and a grandmother.
Good for you.
And as I reflect on this moment,
Make
it's
sure your
no
kids don't grow up to be
accident
criminals.
that I'm standing here before you this evening to make these remarks. You see, exactly 1 year ago, about this time, I was sitting right over there with then legislative candidate Tricia Kirk. We were observing a meeting, a formal meeting of the Cuba County Legislature in a quest to better understand what our jobs would be like should we both be elected. The topic of that meeting, as presented by Legislator Foley, was whether or not the county should increase contact with minority organizations to improve diversity in the county workforce.
There's a CRT buzzword,
As
diversity.
County Legislator Foley made and offered up that resolution, I hear this, and I quote, African Americans are a very small percentage of people in our county.
True.
Why should we invest our resources in giving those people jobs? If those people want the job, they should come to us and get them. And
True.
by the way, why would we do this? Just to pat
It's called
ourselves
affirmative
on the
action,
back
which has been
to
deemed
say
unconstitutional.
We hired a bunch of unqualified minorities. These words fell out of the mouth with ease in front of me.
Why should
and in front of
why
some
should
of
you go to people
from
to
a
look for
county
jobs,
legislator.
to
His
give them
name,
jobs when they
Andrew
should come to
Dennison.
you to look for
To
jobs?
be honest, I was so shocked.
That's
I
called
did not quite
capitalism,
know
you
what to do.
dumb cunt.
I sat and I observed. Immediately, a number of other legislators, some who were in this room, co-signed that comment. And there was an attaboy attitude in the room until a few legislators who were
Please, you're
also
part
in
of the
this room
community.
spoke up and offered alternatives.
Please, quit fucking
to
up my
his blatantly
community.
racist comments. What struck me was most was how comfortable a majority of the legislator was that evening. To be honest, there was not much more to know about Legislator Dennison.
So now you
In
mean
fact, I'm not here to say a word.
using capitalism is
His own
racist.
words speak volumes to me and my family. So here's my observation of his own words and actions. Based on his own words, letters to the editor, and recorded statements in the media, there is a track record of his opinion. And based on the documentation,
So according to Herm,
is a blatantly racist.
please, you
And
should
I'm
send
sure
out
the opinion
leaflets
that
to
everyone in
people
position in
saying
our county knows.
you want them to
He
work for
seems
you
to
instead
like
of them
you.
coming to you
He benefits
saying
from
they
it.
want to work for you.
He leverages his racism to achieve political outcomes for his party. We know Legislator Dennison is not going to change. He is consistent.
You're independent, right, Grumpy?
Just
So
read
what's
his
your party?
most recent article in the
Non-affiliated.
Citizen, an article written by Robert Harding, one of the most respected political reporters in New York State, for further confirmation. He doubles down with his racist commentary. Given this, I'm standing here tonight to press those around him to manage your racist colleague. And we need to press you. We need to impress upon you. If you don't
So
deal
not
with him
being
directly,
socialist is racist.
You are enabling his hate. This will be what I remember about him, and this will be
I would say
what I
would
remember
say
about you.
when I say
And I wanna
segregate
thank
themselves, I
all of the
mean stupid
politicians
from
that
smart.
Eli has listed
Because I
who
know
come
some
out publicly
black Americans
against
who are
his
smart.
racism today. And I want to
We hang
thank
out
us
together.
retiring
I just don't
Assemblyman
associate with stupid
Gary
people.
Finch for coming out boldly
Please
and
segregate
decisively
yourself.
against a
Don't
member
talk to
of
me.
his own party.
Because I'm going to have to tell you you're fucking stupid.
This was a
It'll
brave,
save you some
bold
heartbreak.
move by a politician who gets
I haven't read all the CRT
and this
manuals.
is what I need you to do. I expect you to do the right thing. And to me, you all must answer this fundamental question. How will we deal with a colleague and his internal and external supporters?
Like, I'm
who
registered
use tax
independent,
dollars,
but I
my
vote Republican
black
most of the
tax
time.
dollars, to
Although I
enact
have,
hate on black
I have
citizens
voted
of Cuba
independent.
County? When
But I'm,
legislator Dennison and other
when it comes
Cuba County
to
politicians
federal
what you do
elections, I can't
or
vote
don't
locally
do
anymore.
about his racism
But I
will
can
be
still
the
vote
hallmark
federally.
of your legacy of leadership in Cuba County.
I need to get my absentee ballot.
Blank,
Whether it will be
period.
counted, I have no fucking
Do
idea.
the right thing. My grandsons are counting on you. Little Najee, who's in this chamber right now, is counting on you. And what
Did he
you
set
do
fire to
next
something?
really matters. Call for the resignation of legislator Dennison to resign. There are no accidents.
Exactly. I don't give a shit your skin color, but that's racism in 2023 too. Not seeing color, just seeing fucking your IQ points. If I don't bow down to you,
Point, we're gonna
even though
go
you're
to
a
the
fucking
phone. We have
idiot,
some folks
because
that are
you're a
waiting very
minority,
patiently.
even gender-wise,
This is our first
because they're
time here.
making that now
This
a
is the phone, so-
minority, then I'm a racist. Well, fucking call me whatever you want. It doesn't mean
Hello, can you
anything
please
anymore,
state your
thanks to
name
you
and
fucking
address?
retards.
You have 3 minutes.
Call me whatever you want. You're still a fucking idiot.
Hello. Can you please state your name and address? You have 3 minutes to speak.
When I, well,
Ann Mapper,
see, I went to college in 2001.
in Auburn, New York.
I have 3 degrees, and they weren't teaching this shit when I was there. Matter of fact, my professor was a Vietnam vet, so him and I got along really
I'm gonna
good.
mute it right now.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I can speak?
Yes, you have 3 minutes.
Of course, but
I'm sorry, thanks.
I think you read the article too on one of your live stream, one of your
I was not born or
videos,
raised
and it was about the
in
riots.
Cuba County. I've only been
Well, fucking don't
in the
riot.
area
You got nothing to do with
over
color. Don't set
3
shit
years.
to,
My
don't
career
set fire to shit
brought me to this
over a
county
lie.
and to
And
this
fuck
community.
BLM.
And
Oh my
as
God, I'm a
a
racist
member
because
of
I
this
said fuck
community,
BLM. Well, don't steal people's
feel
money,
as
you
an
cocksuckers.
outsider looking in. However, I've met
BLM,
befriended
the
some
fucking
people in the
hoax that
area
just
that
keeps
have
on
embraced
stealing.
me within this community. In reading the letter from Dennison, there was one sentence that struck me. Which
Oh yeah, he was a
first
cool
sentence.
dude too.
If you hear a sentence that starts with the word, I am
He
not
heard I was there on the
racist,
GI
but
Bill, and he was like really
it
cool
is
to me.
merely
Fucking, I got A's no
followed
matter
by
what I did.
affirmation,
Well, I actually studied
which
too.
is quite bigoted, prejudiced, or racist.
Criminal
And
justice.
It's hurtful to us African Americans living in this community. It's easy to cite the obvious racism, such as using race-based slurs or threats, but there's a more subtle and insidious
I heard you read the letter. I don't
stereotyping
remember you
that
ever
can be
saying
hard
anything
to
racist.
And these stereotypes often come in the form of microaggressions. Brief,
CRT buzzword, microaggression.
behavioral,
No such thing.
environmental indignity.
There's, you need to get the
that
sand out of your
communicate
vagina. That's what
derogatory and
microaggression
negative
is.
racial messages
Or mangina.
or
Depends on if you're a male or
to the
female.
receiver or to the listening.
Me? No, I was in,
That's what I
well,
received
I started as
from this
infantry, went
statement
armor, and then went
when I
back
read it
to
yesterday.
infantry. When I was there, I was armor.
Derogatory, it was very hostile, and it delivered negative racial
Yeah, I was with the 127th then. Yeah,
Speaking
I was
that
with Jim.
the word
Actually, that might have been
idiot,
before Jim came into unit.
assuming
But
we do
anyway,
not care
yeah,
about
Jim and I were in the same armored unit.
duty, and stating none of us were here 200, 300 years ago, being dismissed.
I was an MP on paper for about 2 months. I was supposed to go to school, and then they did this big reorg because of the what they call the brigade combat team concept. They went from divisions to brigade combat team.
We want to be seen as a whole person and not stereotype. And we want you to know how.
Well, no shit. Wouldn't you want your like pilot, for instance, or doctor to be the most qualified?
And reading those words again was hurtful. it lacks sensitivity. And
So
it
basically what
speaks
she's
to
saying is,
ignorance.
because you're a fucking
Because the
idiot,
majority of that statement
me pointing out
is
you're an idiot
based
is
on
hurtful.
opinions and falsehood.
Regardless of skin color.
There is zero facts in
Just
that statement.
basically, you're a fucking idiot.
As being a voice of a Black American in Cuba County, will ask for his resignation to resign. That is
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nobody's actually quoted anything racist yet.
Hello,
so I'm still
you've
waiting.
reached the line for the legislative meeting. Can you please state your name and address?
Hello. Hello.
Hello, can you please state your name and address?
Yes, my name is Ronald Chipiniak, and my address is 11549 Ferris Road, Cato, New York.
Thank you, sir. You have,
Okay. This may be something you do not want to hear, but everyone is entitled to their opinion. I have known Andrew Dennison for the better part of 30 years. During his past 4 years as a member of the Cayuga County Legislature, he has always brought a fresh perspective to the legislature with his insights, integrity, and conservative views. He is always questioning the way things are done, always looking out for the costs and how it will affect taxpayers in the end. Cayuga County residents would be hard-pressed to find a more dedicated, committed, and concerned legislator than Andrew Dennison. During the past 4 years, I have read many articles penned by Andrew Dennison, over 20 to be exact. His articles are meant to provide thought and discussion, as his letter on protest did. Would you agree with him at all times? No, and no one would expect you to. I personally know Andrew Dennison is not a hateful person, definitely not prejudiced or racist. Are we going to throw Andrew to the wolves over one misunderstood letter out of 22? Thank you.
Wasn't misunderstood.
Thank you.
I understood it perfectly. The protesters were fucking terrorists. Wasn't misunderstood. I understood it. It's just,
At
I'm
this
not a fucking
point,
idiot.
I'm going to call on Trish Kerr. She had some members to speak this evening.
I'd like to invite Carmela.
Holy shit, how long do they go on just bashing you, dude? Like, this is like my Facebook, but like, live. And are any of those women under 200 pounds?
I'm Carmela Barbagallo, and I live at 113 North Boots Avenue in Auburn. And I was going to say that I agreed with all of the prior speakers until that phone call. And thank you, Tricia, for organizing.
Holy shit.
Today. Mr. Dennison's words offended me so very much. The most offensive of his barely coherent thoughts was his statement that racism is a two-way street. In a time when our nation and community are hurting
I call it
so much by the
fuckbook.
effects and outcomes of systemic racism, Mr. Dennison has chosen to
Oh,
further
CRT,
divide
systemic racism.
and fuel the fire, so to speak. He claims
Oh,
that
fuck.
he is not a racist.
Holy shit.
I would say at the very least, he does not possess the ability to understand issues faced by Black and other minority residents. In his correspondence with me this week via email,
You mean he doesn't
he
understand
has
why they
no
burn
interest
shit
in
down?
learning
Yeah, I
about
don't
these
either.
issues. I also forwarded that email.
I understand, you know, I know how to start a fire and everything. I just haven't looked at a building and went, yeah, well, that'd make a nice bonfire.
County or in a company even, and
Because
haven't
it's
come to
fucking
terms with
illegal.
intrinsic bias, and taken time to learn about what's going on in our nation when it comes to systemic racism, you're asleep at the wheel.
Another CRT buzzword.
I am a foster mother in this community, and
They should take your kids away.
An African American boy, and I feel that there are so many.
And you're going to
individuals
teach him
living
that
here
all
need true
white
leaders.
people are bad.
They need someone that's thoughtful, caring, understanding, and frankly, not a bigot. Someone
Well, then
to
they
tackle
should get rid of
community
you.
issues, not someone to write rambling letters that include hate speech or ranting that folks are idiots. If Mr. Dennison didn't intend those remarks for the residents of
Oh, the
Cayuga
phone
County,
call was good.
why did he share these thoughts with our Cayuga County newspaper? he kind of alluded to that in his note to me, that he didn't intend it for the locals. I would think that this would be absolutely unacceptable to some of you sitting here in this room tonight, and that it would be considered conduct of unbecoming of a Cayuga County leader and representative. Throughout the last few months, I've had conversations with friends and family and discovered that we are all very much in a different place in navigating racial relations and have different
They're not
viewpoints on
racial
the lack of equality
relations
faced by many
if you don't see race.
The overall state of affairs has been very disheartening.
Don't burn shit down. I don't give a shit what color you are.
Mr. Dennison is in a role of leadership. He should be much more involved. As I said to him directly via email, he does not represent my ideals. This type of hate speech fuels an already existing racism boiling underneath the surface. As we've seen occur in our nation, as racists feel emboldened, they take lives.
Didn't we elect a black president?
We have children and adults to protect in our county. Not only should we be fighting for them to feel safe and protected where they live and pay taxes, we should be committing to help their lives flourish. Cayuga County leadership should take a look at the lack of diversity in public offices here.
Another CRT
and
buzzword.
Invest in diversifying Cayuga County.
We're going to watch this
I
again. I'm
hereby
going to put a
commit my
counter
time on
up
a volunteer
there so we
basis
could.
to do so. I hope to see each of you commit to evaluating your own understanding of the needs of all Cayuga County residents and making time in your schedule to create change and opportunity.
Yeah, get the fuck out the way and let people do what they want to do and build some business.
The accomplishments of Harriet Tubman, and I think that it is time to create advances in our community. You hear the calling here tonight. I ask each.
Okay, someone send her a Weight Watchers flyer so she can make some advances in the community.
I'll wrap up. Lastly, I will say that if the topic of racism, social justice, and equality are intimidating to you, and if you don't know where to start to help out and create change, know that there are many, many residents here to guide you. I hope that you've attended a recent peaceful protest or the listening meeting downtown
you know what?
last Saturday. If you think
After
the majority
watching
of your
this many
constituents
people,
are white and aren't concerned with these issues,
I think your county's
I challenge you
lost.
to think again.
We may need to nuke
These
it.
movements can actually encourage Cayuga County residents to become more involved. What a great thing that would be, don't you think? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you may go ahead.
Matter of fact, if things keep going in the state of New York the way they're going, may have to be a bigger nuke. Oh man, I'm telling you, I'm going to rewatch this. I'm going to put a counter up there. Every time they use a CRT buzzword, I'm going to hit a counter.
I am a teacher for the Auburn district, and I have a
Matter of fact, teacher is almost becoming a CRT buzzword.
Biracial children. My daughter spoke this weekend about the experiences she had. This is totally off script. The experiences that she has had growing up in Auburn. And it's hurtful that at this time in our nation that our children are still having to suffer from the effects of racism. And nothing that she has done except for being born into this town. So what my feeling was when I was reading Mr. Dennison's letter is that he is so much like so many of the people that I know, friends of mine who I've had to have these difficult conversations with.
If they're your friends, then you're
The words
racist
that he
too.
was speaking shows that he's uneducated and uninformed about race issues in our community.
You mean
and
he's
our
uninformed about arson?
I was disgusted by the things that he said. As a leader of our community, no leader of our community should be speaking of in such a divisive tone.
Saying
what
you
I
shouldn't
have
burn
said in
shit
my letter
down.
to the legislators this week is all of our elected officials should serve and respect all of the citizens that they represent, all of them. They should stand on the side of justice to do the work to bring systematic change. When our nation is in a time of political and racial divisiveness, we should have representatives to represent.
Yeah, because of
our
fucking
community
idiots like you.
to show that we are trying to bring unity, not divisiveness. Legislator Dennison chose to promote hate and disunity by a few of his statements. Black Lives Matter only when a black person is killed by a
Of course not.
by
Oh
stating
no.
that racism is a two-way street
and mentioning black on black crime, it shows to me that he is not taking the time.
Oh yes, black
to
on black
learn
crime is
about
racist.
the race issues in America and in our community. Most importantly, we are serving our community, and he needs to be looking at our community, what he could do.
Okay, your community. Black on black crime is higher than white on any other crime.
Mr. Dennison's views are
Everywhere liberals are.
and it is there was a
Syracuse, black on black crime is higher than any other violent crime.
Like I said, I have conversations with my friends on a daily basis who say, I don't want to talk about race anymore, and I say it's not an option.
Please tell me some of these people died in like a fiery crash and away from this meeting.
This is city officials, these are teachers.
Sorry, but I don't have sympathy for fucking stupid anymore.
My friends that I am telling, you cannot.
You should have wrote the article in cursive. None of these fucking idiots could read it.
Conversations need to start. Mr. Dennison needs to be listening. I'm not going to call him a racist. I'm going to say he's uneducated in the issues of race. And I ask all of you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, he probably hasn't read Kendi's fucking book.
Take a stand against racism. Mr. Dennison does not understand the Black Lives Matter movement. And I will reiterate what some of the other people have said.
Exactly. No, wait.
The silence of many of you is speaking volumes to us who believe that Black lives do matter, and we would like to see systematic change starting in our community.
Holy shit, she didn't, she got that CRT buzzword in right at the end, systemic change.
I have a personal statement of this. I have had numerous calls and messages from friends, families, colleagues, and strangers who are now my friends, like Camilla, who have reached out to express sadness and outrage surrounding Legislator Dennison's editorial and follow-up commentary. I share their concerns. Continued failure by Legislator Dennison to acknowledge the impact of his words, regardless of his right to speak them, or to show any care for the pain and anger they have caused across our community is unacceptable.
The impact of your words saying don't burn shit now?
It is possible to support law enforcement without devaluing the Black Lives Matter movement. These are not...
Are they still defending Black Lives Matter today? That's my big question. Do they still think they're not crooks?
Are reprehensible,
or are they that fucking retarded? So they're that fucking retarded.
Civil Service Commission and Human Rights.
Oh, did they see the news story today that George Floyd did not die from asphyxiation?
And they are counterproductive.
Did they see that? And all the news stories about how the prosecutor was pressured to try those 4 cops. Did they see that? Sorry, dudes, but I got bad news for you. You're probably going to have to shoot these people at some point. Sorry.
From his position as chair of the
I'm going to end this because, man, this is just pissing me off. Like,
Any other legislators here have public to be heard or would like to issue a statement of their own?
I'll issue a statement. Y'all fucking retarded. Okay. Yeah, I ended it because I can't do this. No. Saying don't burn shit down is racist now. Would me shooting you in the fucking head be racist, regardless of your color? I mean, fuck these idiots. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I keep asking you guys, because I live in Brazil. I don't know what your school's like there, Grumpy, but they're grooming and chemically castrating your children. What does it take to get you to shoot people? 3% tax on tea, we have a country. Grooming and castrating kids, I guess is okay. These are the fucking idiots doing it. And the ones in those videos are the ones doing it. Motherfucker, got news for you. There's a reason I fucking moved, because I'd be in fucking prison. That's why I moved. I mean, come on. And it's not a joke. As far as being racist, I hate everybody equally, or like everybody. It depends on your brain matter. If they made stupid a race, then I'd be a racist. And we could start a group too. We could have patches and a flag, and I wouldn't wear sheets, but because they're fucking ugly, but like leather jackets with patches on it or vests. You know, we'd have a biker gang with patches on the back to say we hate fucking stupid, and then we could put a D below it because it's pretty much all of them. I'm trying to figure out what it takes to piss you Americans off. I could show you the books that they're putting in your schools, but it doesn't seem to piss you off. They're putting your kids on hormone blockers or puberty blockers, but that doesn't seem to piss you off. What does it take to piss you people off? My kids are grown. I mean, fuck. Call me and, I'll go shoot somebody. I'm kind of overdue. But what does it take to piss you people off? They're grooming and mutilating your kids. Your fucking health secretary is a dude who thinks he's a woman. World War III is about to kick off thanks to the fucking Alzheimer's patient in charge. Okay, we're still waiting. What does it take to piss you people off? You have the Second Amendment. I don't. Then again, I don't have the government in Brazil. Did you know I don't have the government in my face every day? They don't have enough police to do what they do in the States. I can walk down the street and have a beer and not get a ticket. Yeah, I don't really care about she got a bunch of misdemeanors, and for them, they can convict Trump on anything. I could get you convicted on anything. I have a degree in criminal justice. I could get a fucking ham sandwich indicted. It's not hard. You just have to know the right people. I can get anyone convicted if I fucking make up crimes that don't exist. Crime doesn't exist. The crime that they're trying to convict Trump of doesn't exist. That's why they used RICO. That has nothing to do with election laws. Yeah, I know, Grumpy, but we're going to do it one night, but what I want to do is I got to figure out how I can get a counter up there so I can click it every time I hear a fucking CRT buzzword. Every time I hear it. Because I bet you I heard a fucking 100 of them. And you've seen, I know CRT. I've read up on it and studied it. It's basically fucking Karl Marx for fucking, they're turning your kids into good little communists is what they're doing. They're teaching it in schools. Again, what does it take to get you Americans pissed off enough to shoot someone? I should see teachers on telephone poles with a sign around their neck with their blue hair that says, I was a pedophile who fucking was telling kids about my dick, so they shot me in the fucking head. They're grooming and mutilating your kids. What does it fucking take? But hey, it's just me. I'm not in your jurisdiction. I can say whatever I want. Like, I can say, I'd say shoot Sniffy Joe in the head, but he wouldn't fucking notice. He'd just keep wandering around lost. What does it take? 3% T-tax. You have a country. Grooming and mutilating your kids. Whatever. Okay. I guess your kids ain't that fucking important. Which is fine, whatever. But don't tell me, I'd do anything for my kids. So why isn't that teacher dead? Why isn't she hanging from a fucking telephone pole? Oh yeah. Hold on, I got it.
Are you fucking getting it yet?
Fuck off past the deer stand! Exactly. But yeah, what does it take? I mean, come on, people. Let me see if I can find one. We need to like maybe weed out the education department. Maybe start teaching kids basic biology again. So if they have a PP, they know what it's for, and grown people can stop telling kids about what they do with their PP. Or we fucking shoot you in the fucking head for being a pedophile. See, in prison, you get shanked for that. Why should the rules be different on the outside? Why should your teacher be allowed to tell your kids what she does with her pee-pee or his pee-pee? Even if it's cutting it the fuck off. Why should you not be allowed, if you're under 18, to buy a Hustler, but in school you can get a book that details how to suck a dick? When someone can explain this to me and not sound like a fucking pussy, why are they allowed to do this in schools? Why are they not hanging from a telephone pole? What, are you afraid of prison? Well, maybe you get enough of you together and then it becomes a revolution. It's no longer a crime, it's a revolution. And it should be against the people pushing this shit. Fuck, people. And I'm actually looking at that 3% T-tax now going, man, it wasn't so bad compared to what we fucking got now. By the way, World War III is about to kick off. And don't call me, I already did my time. You're all fucking in on it on your own. Are they going to send all those scumbag idiots who don't know what gender they are? They're non-deployable because they're busy getting their hormone shots and their fucking surgeries. You know what you need.
This is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual purge sanctioned by the U.S. government. Weapons of Class 4 and lower have been authorized for use during the purge.
Fuck it, let's go Class 4 and above.
Are restricted. Government officials
Jim, you and I get a tank.
Have been granted immunity from the purge and shall not be harmed.
105.
Commencing at the siren, any and all crime, including murder, will be legal for 12 continuous hours. Police, fire, and emergency medical services will be unavailable until tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. when the purge concludes. Blessed be our new founding fathers and America, a nation reborn. May God be with you all.
This is the moment we've all been waiting for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Let's get ready